Chapter 1125. Empire Calendar, Year 7743, November 4th, Light Snow. There was no oath-taking ceremony, no departure ceremony. The armies of Yanlan City left one after another, heading towards the East Sea along the routes of Tsangnan Province and Lingdong Province. Outside the north gate of Yanlan City, on the mountain ridge where the Eagle Nest camp was located, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi stood on a high rock, looking at the endless stream of flags flying into the distance. The weather today was not bad, with light snow drifting in the air and thin dark clouds. It was as if the heavens were very kind to Yanlan City for sending out their troops. The cold wind blew, and their cloaks fluttered. Lin Muyu breathed out a white mist, and couldn't help but smile bitterly in her heart. She had almost lost the ability to breathe, and now she was not used to this mortal body. The Eagle Nest Mountain was very high, and the field of vision was very broad. She could almost see the whole situation, and today she would stay here for the whole day. Behind her, the sound of hooves was getting closer and closer. It was Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, Citizen, and the others. Holding the reins of the war horses, Feng Jixing slowly walked over and said, "Your Highness, the three armies have all set off. The 180,000 Longdan Army Camp, 100,000 Royal Guards, 200,000 National Army, and 80,000 Navy troops stationed in Yanlan City have gone to Lingdong in 2 routes, land and sea. Plus the armies from all provinces, 100,000 soldiers from the 7 navies, 50,000 soldiers from the National Army, 120,000 soldiers from Mingshan Province, 150,000 soldiers from Ba Huang Province, 100,000 soldiers from the Monster Race, and 80,000 soldiers from the Iron Blade Army. The total number is 1.16 million. Plus the Dragon League and Gong Gong Navy, the total number is 1.26 million. I am here to inform your Highness." Thanks for your hard work, General Feng." Qin Yin nodded and asked, "Are the provisions and weapons ready?" Feng Jixing said, "This time, we have sent over 1,200 giant magic crystal cannons, 4,300 small magic crystal cannons, and 20,000 magic crystal crossbows. The total number of cavalrymen is as high as 250,000. Almost all the horses from the farms in the north and south of the empire have been gathered here. Almost every soldier has been given 2 sets of armors and weapons. That should be enough. Where's the medicine? How's the funding for the casualty camp?" Lin Muyu asked. Chu Yao, who was standing beside Feng Jixing, smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, I've already sent out orders to the Elixir Division to select talents and send them to Lingdong. I've also brought along a large amount of medicine. The total number of military doctors is more than 50,000, and we've prepared 5,000 tents and 10,000 stretchers for the casualty barracks. I believe that's enough." "Thank you, Sister Chu Yao." Lin Muyu smiled. "In terms of preparation, we have far surpassed Xianxia." Feng Jixing said, "Xianxia is the marshal of the Northern God Realm. He has never fought in the mortal realm before, so I'm afraid that he isn't used to fighting in the mortal realm. Let's wait and see how Xianxia commands his 2.5 million troops. This is not a small number." Lin Muyu coughed and said, "I'm not worried about what Xianxia can do. What I'm worried about is the people who have submitted to Xianxia. Qin Yu and Bai Mingyuan. These 2 prime ministers of the great kingdom of Shang are not simple people. Moreover, Qin Yu has many strategists under his command. If Qin Yu advises Xianxia, then we might be in big trouble." "There's one more problem," Feng Jixing said in a low voice. "Even if we use the entire nation's ships and the fishermen's ships, we still can't transport 1 million troops across the sea in one go. At most, we can transport 400,000 people in 3 trips. But if the wind is favorable, it will take 3 to 5 days to reach the other side. If the wind is against it, even a ship with a steam engine will need at least 7 days to reach the other side. 3 trips back and forth would be equivalent to more than a month. If we launch a large-scale attack, I'm afraid that we can only delay the enemy for half a month with 400,000 people." Lin Muyu felt a headache coming on. She felt that she was at her wit's end. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, Lin General, It's actually not a problem to delay the enemy with 400,000 troops. Don't we have the West Mountain Province? With the West Mountain Province as a barrier, it won't be a problem to hold out for half a month. Let's hope so, provided that Xianxia doesn't take the initiative to attack and is willing to let go of Yao. Yao is in imminent danger. I've already ordered her to retreat. Lin Muyu frowned and said, besides, once Xianxia takes the initiative to attack, our entire plan will fail. Feng Jixing narrowed his eyes and said, according to the information I've sent out, the ports in the inland seas of the Tianji Empire, the Blackstone Empire and the Celestial Empire have a great number of warships. Added with the fact that the forests in the greatest heavenland are abundant and easy to harvest, the number of warships possessed by the entire kingdom of Shang is far greater than ours. Perhaps what? Perhaps Xianxia will give the order to build a 1,000,000-strong navy and start a world-shaking water war against us in the East Sea. That would be great. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, that's exactly what I want. Are you sure that Xianxia doesn't know about the existence of the Gonggong Navy? By the time the Gonggong Navy arrived, the heavenly punishment had already descended. The senses of the gods have decreased, and Xianxia may not be able to sense the Gonggong Navy from thousands of miles away. We can only take a gamble. If it's a naval war, Qianfeng's 10,000-strong army might come in handy. Yes, I've already taken that into consideration. By dusk, more than half of the Longdan army camp and the Imperial Army had already left Lanyan City. Lin Muyu and the others rode down Eagle Nest Mountain and officially left the city. The horses' hooves stepped on the snow, making rustling sounds. A layer of ice had already formed on Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's shoulder armor, which couldn't be wiped off. The two girls' faces were also red from the cold. It was really hard on them. Outside the city, under the leadership of Qin Yin, a group of imperial guards raised the empress's flag and escorted Qin Yin out of Lanyan City. The cold wind was bleak, and everyone's faces were more or less filled with reluctance. They didn't know when they would be able to return after leaving the capital. The mountains were high and the rivers were long, and the journey was long. They didn't know if they could survive until the end of the war. The soldiers inevitably looked perturbed. The imperial guards were slightly better. Their cultivation was considered high, and they were less perturbed and more confident than ordinary soldiers. Moreover, they were the Empress's guards, and this sense of honor was very strong. Your Highness, wait a minute. A person's shout came from within the city. He was wearing the armor of a second-rank military general and was a vice commander. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Feng Jixing all reined in their horses and turned to look. That person galloped in the wind and snow. His face was ashen from the cold. It was Zheng Fang, Zheng Yifan's son and Zheng Xiang's younger brother. Zheng Fang dismounted and said respectfully, Your Highness, Father is here to send you off. Oh, Deity Ho is here? In the distance, the sound of galloping horses could be heard. The old official, Zheng Yifan, was galloping over under the protection of the God Might Battalion's cavalry. His face looked very weathered. Perhaps it was because he had lost his divine power, but he seemed to have aged a lot. After dismounting from his horse, he knelt on the snowy ground beside the road, cupped his fists, looked up at Qin Yin and said, Your Highness, you really don't want to bring me along for the expedition? Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, Deity Ho, you're old, and I don't want you to suffer the pain of the bumpy journey. This old subject thanks Your Highness for your concern, but... Zheng Yifan frowned and said, Even if Your Highness doesn't bring this old subject along, at least bring this old subject's 8,000 soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion with me. The soldiers all look forward to the day when they can serve the Empire, slay the enemy, and make contributions. Qin Yin shook her head. Deity Ho, the imperial capital needs the protection of you and the God Might Battalion. Aunt Lien's Zitherdragon army is far from enough. So please leave the God Might Battalion behind and replace the Imperial Guards to protect the Imperial capital. Your Highness, you're assured to let me guard Lanyan City? Zheng Yifan seemed a little surprised. Why wouldn't I be assured? Qin Yin smiled faintly. Her beautiful smile was like a wisp of spring wind in the cold winter, and it warmed people's hearts. I thank your highness for your trust. Zheng Yifan knelt on the ground and bowed, then said respectfully, I will definitely wish your highness and Lin general victory in the imperial capital. I hope that you can unify the celestial pole as soon as possible, and let the banner of Great Qin spread throughout the world. Yes, you will. The weather is cold, deity Ho should go back and rest early. Yes, your highness. Zheng Yifan slowly stood up, and he didn't bother to wipe the snow on his knees and pants. He just watched as Qin Yin and the others left and disappeared into the curtain of snow. Father. Zheng Fang was now a middle-aged man with a mustache. He said, Is your highness really willing to hand over the defense of Lanyan City to the Zheng family? Zheng Yifan's old eyes shone brightly. He said, After so many years, your highness is finally willing to believe in the loyalty of the divine marquis residents. Then we will do our best to serve the empire and defend Lanyan City. As long as the imperial capital exists, we will exist. If the imperial capital falls, the Zheng family will also fall. Yes, father. 2 days later, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Feng Jixing were in the command center of the empire's army. They had already arrived at the outskirts of Five Valleys City. Tents had already been set up outside the city. They immediately fed the horses, ate their meals, and took a short rest. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Lin Muyu had a tent alone and didn't stay with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. After all, in the eyes of the empire's soldiers, Qin Yin was still the empress, and Lin Muyu was still the marshal. Even though they were a couple, people would gossip about them if they stayed together. No one knew about the deep palace of Zetian Palace, but it was different when they were on the march. The body of an ordinary person would be exhausted after running for 2 days and 2 nights. The moment Lin Muyu touched the pillow, she fell into a deep sleep. Even the sound of snow falling on the tent and the guards sweeping away the snow on the tent could barely be heard. The next day, the half-asleep Lin Muyu was awakened by the cheers outside. He got up, put on his armor, and walked out of the tent. He heard the cheers of the soldiers. The snow has stopped. The sun is out, that's great. The sun is out? Lin Muyu turned around, and a ray of golden light shone on his face. Oh, the sun is really out. The heavenly punishment had ended, and the purpose of punishment had been achieved. However, everyone had become ordinary people. What was the next step of the heavens? Lin Muyu looked up at the sky and frowned. He could no longer sense the aura of the heavenly realm, and he didn't know how the situation of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and Xiao was. He was full of worry, but there was nothing he could do. This feeling was simply hopeless. Chapter 1126. In the Ba Wasteland realm, there was a gigantic purple vine that reached into the clouds. There was a person trapped in the cage-like vine. The vine's thorns pierced into his body and quickly absorbed what little divine power he had left. Strands of faint purple demonic aura swirled around him, causing the entire Ba Wasteland realm to lose its color. It was as if it had fallen into a deathly stillness. Finally, the demonic aura gathered and condensed into a huge figure. It was a person shackled by a huge metal chain. His body was filled with demonic aura, and his face was filled with arrogance and viciousness. He chuckled and said, 7 luminaries, Demon Emperor, it's been a long time. I never thought you would end up like this. The Demon Emperor raised his head and looked at him weakly. His eyes were filled with shock. How could it be you? Chu Xingyun, didn't you die? Pa, you think a mere heaven's retribution can kill me? Demonic aura, Tianifi gods, are these your handiwork? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor asked calmly. No, I don't have that ability. Chu Xingyun laughed heartily and said, Your world has lost its righteous path, so it will inevitably lead to the invasion of demons. This isn't something I can control. All I can do is push the boat along. I'll give you the demon chi I've gathered in the 3,000 worlds for many years, so that you can establish a new order in your world. Back then, you were equally matched with me, but what about now? The demon god I've created will crush you like an ant. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's body trembled. He shouted angrily, Chu Xingyun, What right do you have to create a god? Who do you think you are? Ha, looks like you still don't believe me and still look down on me. Then open your dog eyes and see what I've obtained. What right do I have to create a god? As he spoke, Chu Xingyun shouted. Rays of golden light gathered in front of his chest. Very quickly, a thick golden grimoire appeared. There were faint golden symbols on the grimoire. Book of God Investiture? The 7 luminaries demon emperor was completely shocked. How is this possible? How is this possible? Wasn't the Book of God Investiture destroyed by the ancestral god a long time ago? Do you really think that there are only 6 realms in this world? Childish. Chu Xingyun laughed heartily and said, 10,000 heavenly laws, all kinds of karma, there is a world beyond this world, and it is a mysterious world that you fake gods are unable to pry into. For example, I entered the 3,000 worlds by chance. There are flowers blooming like brocade here, beautiful beyond compare. Wait, you seem to be chained up with a metal chain, the 7 luminaries demon emperor said calmly. Shut up. Chu Xingyun instantly went berserk. He angrily roared, I'm the number 1 person in the 3,000 worlds. How could I be locked up by someone? Just you wait, even in another world, I can still destroy everything you have. Is it because I looked down on you? The 7 luminaries demon emperor asked. Yes, so what? Chu Xingyun said harshly, I can't stand people looking down on me the most in my life, not even you. The heavenly book of divine bestowment has already opened the door to the demon world for me. Just you wait for the demon god I conferred upon you to destroy your world. Haha. The 7 luminaries demon emperor suddenly threw his head back and laughed. What are you laughing at? Chu Xingyun said angrily. I'm laughing at your ignorance. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's eyes shone brightly. He said, haven't you heard of yin and yang, the natural law of all things? Since ancient times, if there's good, there's evil. If there's evil, there's good. Use the power of the demon world to interfere with the laws of the 6 realms. Perhaps with your help, you can create a new order in the 6 realms and open a new door to the heavenly Tao. T. Chu Xingyun looked at the 7 luminaries demon emperor ferociously. He pointed at his nose and said, You, wait. Wait. Then I'll wait. The 7 luminaries demon emperor raised his head. He endured the bone-piercing pain, but his gaze was still arrogant. It wasn't until Chu Xingyun's demon god body dissipated that the 7 luminaries demon emperor nodded and muttered, Could there be other worlds outside the 6 realms? What are these 3,000 worlds? Are they existences that are separated from the outer heavens? At that moment, thunder rumbled in the sky. It seemed to indicate that another law was forming. Not long after, a purple demonic flame shot across the sky. It quickly turned into thousands of fragments and shot towards different parts of the universe. Instantly, the 7 luminaries demon emperor frowned and gritted his teeth. Chu Xingyun, you lunatic. Do you really have the ability to form a new order? Spiritual mountain. The sky was densely covered with purple clouds, giving people a feeling of suffocation. Outside the palace, Ziyao watched from afar. She was powerless. She had lost her godly power and became immortal. She couldn't travel between the various spiritual mountains, let alone visit the 7 luminaries demon emperor. What's that? Sun Feng looked up at the purple clouds in the sky. Ziyao shook her head. I don't know, but it seems like a new power has started to rule the 6 realms. It's an extremely evil power of order. Damn, I can feel it. It's very evil. It even leads people to evil. That's right. Ziyao's eyes were filled with worry. I don't know how much suffering the 6 realms will have to go through. Sun Feng, immediately send people to search for seeds and food on the spiritual mountain. Start planting grains and fruits on the spiritual mountain. Ah? Do what? Get some food. Aren't you hungry? I'm hungry. Then why aren't you going? In the outer heavens, a golden heavenly melody hovered in the sky. The land was lush and green. It was a peaceful and tranquil scene. In the lush forest, an old man with a pale face carried a bamboo basket on his back. He bent down to search the underbrush, using a golden shovel to pick up the herbs one by one, and then leisurely place them into the bamboo basket. A heavenly melody floated in the sky. He was slightly startled. In the next moment, his body turned into a golden light and shot into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he stepped into a solemn and dignified hall, and the other two figures arrived in a flash. One of them was a beautiful woman with a human head and a snake's body. She wore a long dress, and her eyes revealed pity and love. She had the imposing aura of a motherly model of the world, and she held a white jade staff in her hand that was exquisite, translucent, and emanated an oppressive glow. The other was an old man in a green robe. He had a celestial appearance. His eyes were like the bright moon in the sky. His white beard fluttered in the wind. He was out of this world. It was obvious that he was a celestial being. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. They floated into the glass pavilion in the hall and knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Sky Sovereign." There was no one in the hall, but a deep voice sounded. It sounded like a human, a celestial, and a beast. "Fuxi, Nua, Shinong, you've all seen the situation of the 6 realms, right?" "Yes, Sky Sovereign." Nua looked up. Her beautiful eyes were filled with pity. "Once the heavenly punishment is over, there will be no more righteous gods in the 6 realms. Demonic chi will invade, and a disaster will be inevitable. The gods don't care about the righteous people. It's expected that they would suffer this disaster. But the people of the 6 realms need the protection of the gods." "But Sky Sovereign," Fuxi said respectfully, "the sky beyond heaven surpasses the 6 realms. We have an agreement with the gods of the north not to interfere in the affairs of the 6 realms. How can we help the 6 realms?" "Fuxi, didn't you help Lin Muyu before?" Fuxi smiled faintly. This disciple really likes that child. Nua also smiled. Heavenly Sovereign Panga continued, "The Tao is formed by nature. The Mahayana heavenly Tao that I understand originates from the human heart and all things in the world. Since the heavenly punishment has taken away the position of the gods, the 3 of you should work together to send the heavenly melody scroll into the firmament of the 6 realms. The heavenly melody scroll will condense between the heavens and the earth. It will inherit the heavenly Tao and follow nature to confer new gods." "Yes, Sky Sovereign." The 3 sovereigns walked out of the ethereal void palace and stood in the sky above the sky beyond heaven. They looked at each other and smiled. They floated in the sky in a triangular formation and raised their arms. Suddenly, a vast divine power surged out. In the center, a resplendent light condensed into a golden scroll. It was the heavenly melody scroll, the treasure of the entire sky beyond heaven. The light became brighter and brighter. Sweat appeared on the faces of the 3 sovereigns. After a long time, the light almost illuminated the entire sky beyond heaven. Boom! The heavenly melody scroll turned into a huge pillar and shot into the sky. It directly broke through the firmament and pierced into the huge black hole in the universe. Fuxi's eyes were cold. He said lightly, "Next, it will depend on the children's fate. The heavens bless our race." Nua nodded and remained silent. Shino grabbed the bamboo basket and disappeared in the sky without a word. Shattered Cauldron Realm. Outside the Winter Frost City, snow was falling. In the distance, there was a group of people. It was the 30,000-strong cavalry led by Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others. The sound of the horses' hooves was very messy. It was already late at night. "What's going on in the sky?" Lin Muyu looked up at the dark clouds in the sky. She could vaguely sense a very annoying power beginning to spread in the sky. "It's the invasion of evil energy." Tang Xiaoxi's heart was the purest and most sincere. She hated the aura of the demonic realm even more. At this moment, a beam of golden light appeared like a ribbon and pierced through the purple clouds formed by the demonic energy. It was like a ray of light in the darkness. "What is that?" Lin Muyu asked. "I don't know." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi shook their heads. Feng Jixing's eyes lit up. He pointed into the distance and said, "You, look over there. There's an army that arrived at the Winter Frost City almost at the same time as us." "Whose army is that? It looks very majestic." In the darkness of the night, the torches illuminated the things in the near distance. Immediately, one could see many ugly giants walking in the dark, carrying heavy iron armors on their backs and holding simple sharp blades in their hands. Each of them had thick shells and sharp teeth. They looked ugly and ferocious. What else could they be other than armored demons? Qianfeng's army had arrived first. In the distance, a white horse galloped over. It was Qianfeng alone. He dismounted and knelt in the dirty snow. He said respectfully, "Qianfeng greets your highness." "Rise, Marshal Qianfeng." "Thank you, your highness." Qianfeng stood up and looked at Qin Yin's snow-white face under the light of the torch, which was still as beautiful and moving as before. He could not help but feel a surge of joy. He had been preparing for this day for many years. Lin Muyu asked, "Marshal Qianfeng, how many armored demons have you brought?" "Marshal, a total of 100,000 armored demons, 30,000 winged men, 10,000 horseshoe men, 10,000 Protoss cavalry, and 25 giant flying snakes." "Good." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Keep the 100,000 armored demons for now. Don't board the ship. I'll give them to Xianxia as a gift. It's a big surprise." Qianfeng understood and smiled. "Yes, I understand. As a marshal, one would not be qualified if he did not know all the tricks." Obviously, Lin Muyu was very qualified. Qianfeng had been fighting for the demons for so many years. His teammates were usually idiots like Lei Chong and Xianxia. Now that he had joined the Qin army, his teammates were smart generals like Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Ding Shi, and Wei Chou. The joy that came from the bottom of his heart could not be concealed. Chapter 1127. Xuanming Town, a small town only 10 miles away from Tianji City, was currently being ravaged by the flames of war. A group of evil Yangshang army's advance team plundered countless belongings, food, and women like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. In the prison carriage, a young girl in her 20s, wearing a green prison uniform, lay lifelessly on a pile of straw. Beside her was the person who was in charge of escorting her. The person wore a blood-red armor and held a spear in his hand. His face was covered by a helmet, revealing only his frightening eyes. He spurred his warhorse forward slowly and said impatiently to the guards beside him, "Stop being so wishy-washy. If those wicked people come to bother us again, shoot them down. This girl's appearance is not bad, so I won't make her a concubine. Leave her here." "Yes, Lord Philae." Philae, who used to be a divine king expert in the northern divine realm, had now fallen to the level of a holy venerable, but his desire to bully the weak had not diminished at all. He still held his spear and guarded his spoils of war. There were a total of 3 large carriages of supplies, and this was all the belongings that could be plundered from the entire Xuanming town. At this moment, a shout came from the snowy ground behind them. A group of people holding forks and pickaxes rushed over. The leader was an old man, and he shouted in despair, "Let go of my daughter, you can take the food and cotton, but let go of my daughter, she did not violate the Empire's laws, you can't take her away. Village chief, please say something for me." The white-haired village chief hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "My lord, our Xuanming town has paid its quarterly taxes on time. Just now, all the belongings in the town have also been offered to you, my lord. Please be magnanimous and let go of his daughter." "I will kneel down in front of you, please be magnanimous." The old man knelt on the snowy ground shakily and bowed with his whole body prostrated. "Village chief, I don't want to make things difficult for you, but I've said it before. Don't bring your people to chase after me. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Since you're here, it's not unreasonable for me to do something." There was a sneer on Felix's face. Suddenly, he grabbed the longbow on the side of the warhorse and shot an arrow. His archery skills were exceptional. With a poochie sound, the arrow pierced the neck of the village chief. Blood spurted out and the village chief died on the snowy ground without a sound, his body convulsing and trembling. "Kill!" Philae roared angrily, "These ungrateful and unruly people, kill them all." The guards drew their bows and arrows and shot randomly at the townspeople who were holding farming tools. Dozens of townspeople could not resist the arrows and fell to the ground in the blink of an eye. "I'll fight it out with you bastards." The father of the captured girl raised his iron pickaxe and rushed over. Even though he had been shot twice in the leg, he still used the iron pickaxe to support himself as he walked over. His eyes were filled with rage. "I'm going to kill you, you devil! I'm going to kill you!" Philae looked at the old father and sneered at the girl in the cage. "Beauty, in order for you to serve me without any worries in the future, I'll cut off your worldly thoughts today. I think my father-in-law will not be stingy with his life. Come." He suddenly spurred his horse and rushed forward. With a shake of his spear, the tip of the spear turned into a whirling flame and pierced through the old father's throat. Flesh and blood splattered and his head was almost blown off from his body. His method of killing was not only cruel, it was simply inhumane. "Father!" The girl in the prison cart let out a heart-wrenching scream. She desperately hit the wooden pillar of the cart with her head, but it was to no avail. She was simply too weak to fight against the strong person in front of her. Philae pulled out the spear, brought it to his mouth and licked a mouthful of blood. He chuckled. "The blood of mortals is actually so delicious." Beside him, another former God State expert seemed to be unable to bear it anymore. He frowned and said, "Philae, don't forget that you used to be one of the gods of the northern divine realm. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution for killing innocent people in the mortal world?" "Divine retribution?" Philae laughed. "George, my friend, do you think it's not divine retribution for us to turn from gods to mortals? Since even the heavens have given up on us, why should we still stubbornly cling to the path of gods? The gods have already fallen, and the heavenly Tao has already collapsed. What I want is power and status, not some heavenly Tao. To hell with the heavenly Tao. It's just a trick to deceive idiots." George frowned but didn't say anything. At this moment, the sky was filled with purple clouds and lightning shook the earth. Boom, boom, boom. The nearby forest was set ablaze because of the lightning strike. Everyone was shocked. The demonic energy in the air was very thick, and they could even faintly see lines of obscure purple characters looming in the sky. "What is that?" George gripped his sword tightly, his face ashen. Philae also gripped his spear tightly and growled, "Get into formation and prepare to meet the enemy." However, there were no enemies. Instead, a golden scroll unfurled in the air. Almost the entire vault of heaven was covered and occupied by the scroll. A vast heavenly might surged over the earth of the mortal world, and a mysterious buzzing power invaded all living things. Not long after, a beam of purple light shot down from the horizon and bombarded into Felix's body with a schwa sound. There wasn't even a single warning. Ah! Philae felt as if his body was about to explode. He rolled over and fell off his horse, curled up and trembled as if he was in great pain. At this time, a giant demonic shadow slowly condensed in the air, looking at the people on the ground with disdain. The voice sounded as if it came from beyond the heavens and said emotionlessly, "Philae, you have done all kinds of bad things, and your heart is filled with resentment. You have achieved the demonic path and received the recognition of the demon's sealing book. Today, I will grant you a demonic body and confer you the title of a second-class god, Lionheart Demon God. I hope you will behave yourself and serve the demonic path in this world." The demonic shadow disappeared in an instant, and strands of demonic energy began to gather, falling from the sky and seeping into Philae's body. Philae's miserable howl woke everyone from their shock. They saw Philae's body tremble violently, and a purple demonic body appeared behind him, gradually fusing with his body. At the same time, an awe-inspiring divine power rippled out. When Philae opened his eyes, everyone saw a pair of purple eyes. He had obtained a demonic body and was titled as a demon god. Just like that, the first demon god of the mortal world was born. "Philae, how did you become like this?" George asked in horror. "Why, isn't this good?" Philae sneered. "George, are you not used to the current me?" Aren't you the god of kindness? Do you still think so now?" Philae's eyes shone with a fierce light. "Philae, are you crazy? What are you trying to do?" George had already pulled out his sword. "This team only needs one leader," Xianxia said. Fillet shouted, and the spear pierced through George's heart like lightning. George did not even have time to react. Fillet's speed was far beyond George's imagination, so much so that George, who had fallen to the Holy King realm, was killed in an instant. Hiss! Blood gushed out along the spear. The dozens of Xianxia army guards were dumbfounded. George was a small army commander in the army, but he was killed just like that. Fillet's eyes were full of malevolence. He slowly pulled out the spear and said, "From today onwards, I will be in charge of the 1st Army's 7th Squad. Do you all understand?" "Yes, Lord Fillet." No one wanted to die. The current Fillet's strength was unfathomable, and no one knew who he would kill next. "Very well. Follow me to Tianji Palace to see Xianxia." Unknowingly, Fillet had changed the way he addressed Xianxia, the emperor. After all, he was now much stronger than Xianxia. Shattered Cauldron Realm, East Coast. Lin Muyu did not enter Winterfrost City. Instead, she stayed in the warm and comfortable palace. Instead, she brought the Longdan Army Camp's cavalry division to the Blue Wind Harbor Station. Although the station was cold, it at least made her feel more at ease. In the afternoon, heavy snow began to fall again. Inside the commander's tent, the 4 generals, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Qian Feng, and Ding Shi, surrounded a huge sand table map and were pondering how Xianxia would start this war. However, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled outside, and the rumbling sound was deafening. "What's wrong?" Feng Jixing was stunned. "Let's go out and take a look." Lin Muyu flew out of the commander's tent and saw that Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yin, Chu Yao, and Ouyang Yan had already come out of the tent at the side. Outside, thunder rumbled, and purple clouds rolled in. The strong sense of oppression was almost suffocating. At the same time, the sky was soon covered with a golden scroll glowing with purple light. Countless ancient characters were faintly discernible in the air. It was the Book of Investiture of the Gods, also known as the Book of Investiture of Gods. Then, the roar of the demonic shadow came faintly from the sky, and the words of Investiture of Gods were transmitted to the people of the Shattered Cauldron Realm. Investiture of Gods. But it was a demon god. Everyone was shocked. Some soldiers of the Longdan army camp turned pale. That name, was it someone from the celestial pole continent? Someone in the opponent's camp was actually Investiture of Gods. This was a fatal blow to the morale of the Qin Empire. "Dog Heavenly Dao." Zhang Wei pointed to the sky and said, "What kind of heavenly Dao are you? You actually Investiture a bad guy? What kind of dog are you?" Zhang Wei. "Shut up." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "People are divided into good and evil, and so are gods. You can disagree with this distinction, but you must be in awe." Zhang Wei grinned and didn't continue to say anything. In this world, there were only 3 people who could shut him up. One was Feng Jixing, one was Lin Muyu, and the other was the female empress, Qin Yin. Ding Shi's eyes flickered, and he nodded and said, "It seems that the situation is developing in a worse direction." Feng Jixing said, What is this demon god?" "I don't know either." Lin Muyu shook her head, and there was a trace of doubt in her eyes. She said, "But one thing is certain. The people of the realm of gods said that the war of gods and demons tens of thousands of years ago is going to happen again. The difference is that this time, it is very likely that we will be the participants of the war of gods and demons." Feng Jixing was speechless. Chapter 1128. In the Tianji Palace, hundreds of officials stood in great numbers. Xianxia sat high up on the throne. Dola held the imperial edict and stood beside Xianxia, reading aloud. "The First Army has 500,000 soldiers and will be stationed in Tianji City under the command of Emperor Shang. The Second and Third Army have a total of 1 million soldiers and will be led by Chen Yu. The Fourth Army has 300,000 soldiers and will be led by Bai Mingyuan. They will set off in 3 days. The Second and Third Army will attack Xishan Province from the north, east, and south respectively. We must eliminate the Bai Zhe mercenaries controlled by Si Kongyao within 2 days." Under the throne, Qin Yu, Bai Mingyuan and the other officials were silent. What's wrong? Do you have any objections? Yang Shang sneered. Chen Yu knelt down respectfully and said, Emperor Shang, please forgive me for being straightforward. Most of our troops are new recruits who have just been recruited within half a year. They lack training and logistical provisions are insufficient. Most of the provisions are still in the territory of the Celestial Empire and haven't been sent over. It will take at least 10 days for the provisions and equipment to be sent to the territory of Tianji Empire through the Forest of No Return. Therefore, I think we should wait for a while and start the war when the provisions arrive. Otherwise, once the army sets off for Xishan province, I'm afraid there won't be anything to eat along the way. Is that so? Yang Shang said lightly, it seems that the Prime Minister really knows our army's provisions like the back of your hand. Qin Yu frowned and said, Virtuous Sky Province has been sending out rations for many years. The treasury has long been empty. As for Eastcom Province, it was also filled with starving people after the battle 2 years ago. Now that it's experiencing a snow disaster, the people don't even have food for themselves, much less taxes. If your majesty insists on attacking now, I'm afraid the places the army passes by will be scorched. So what if it becomes a scorched land? Yang Shang stood up and sneered, the army will plunder the provisions along the way. Even if there is no provisions, it's okay to eat people. Didn't Marshal Gong Shangming of Tianji Empire do the same? Bai Mingyuan's face immediately turned ashen, but he did not speak. Chen Yu frowned and said, Emperor Shang, please forgive me for speaking bluntly. Since ancient times, only a benevolent and righteous ruler has been able to conquer and rule the world. In the past, Gong Shangming had no choice but to command his army to cannibalize humans. However, we have not reached the point where we have no choice but to do so. The people are the foundation of a country. The hearts of the people will be on the side of the heavens. Your Majesty, please reconsider and never mention cannibalism again. The heavenly Tao must not be defied. Yang Shang slammed his palm on the throne and said, Chen Yu, you're just a god from the mortal world. Who do you think you are? As one of the 2 great marshals of the Northern God realm, do I not understand the heavenly law better than you? Don't talk to me about benevolence and righteousness. In my place, benevolence and righteousness can only be fed to dogs. Strength is the true ruler. Chen Yu gritted his teeth and slowly knelt down. Your Majesty, the holy judgment. At this moment, thunder rumbled outside the main hall. It was the light of the god sealing devil book. Everyone walked out of the main hall one after another. The mighty voice in the air had already completed the conferment of Philae as a god. He's a titled devil god. Philae is a titled devil god. Yang Shang looked proud and said, Qin Yu, do you have anything else to say now? Do you still want to tell me that the heavenly Tao must not be defied? Qin Yu remained silent. In reality, Yang Shang did not know who Philae was at all. However, he knew that Philae would definitely come. Men, prepare the ceremonial guards to welcome the return of Philae, a middle devil god. In less than 2 hours, Philae led his troops into Tianji City. Philae walked proudly into the main hall, but he did not kneel down. Cough cough. Bai Mingyuan coughed. After all, there was a difference in status. However, Philae still did not kneel. He just cupped his hands and smiled. Subordinate Philae greets Emperor Shang. Yang Shang suppressed his anger and smiled. Philae, you are finally here. Felix looked up and saw Duo La standing beside Yang Shang. On top of that, there was a dense group of guards standing behind the Emperor's screen. These guards were all carefully selected Saint King Realm Masters and were all equipped with Demon Heart arrows and Demon Heart stone swords. Once a fight broke out, Felix, a medium god, might not be able to instantly kill Yang Shang. If he couldn't kill Yang Shang, naturally, he wouldn't be able to become emperor. At this moment, Philae was in a dilemma. A few seconds later, he smiled respectfully and said, Your Majesty, I have been recognized by the diabolism. That's good. Yang Shang waved his hand and said, Men, bring the general's seal. I want to confer the title of General Philae as the 2nd Legion's Vanguard General. He will command 100,000 soldiers, 1,000 hectares of fertile land, and 100 maids. Thank you, Your Majesty. This time, Philae knelt down and received the seal. Xianxia walked down the steps and held Philae's hand with both hands. He smiled and said, Philae, from today onwards, you will follow Qinyu to the West Mountain Province to fight against Si Kongyao's army. I hope you will do your best to serve the empire. In the future, glory, splendor and wealth will not be lacking for you. Thank you, Emperor Shang. Xianxia hesitated for a moment before asking, what does it feel like to be a titled demon god? Rebirth, Philae said concisely. It seemed that he did not want to say much. Xianxia couldn't help but laugh. Good. Go and prepare. We will set out to attack the West Mountain Province. Yes. The night at Blue Wind Harbor was extremely cold. Heavy snow continued to fall without any sleep or rest. The cold wind blew, causing the patrolling soldiers to shiver. The neighing of the warhorses and the noises of the soldiers training at night merged into one. More and more troops from the various provinces had gathered. In the blink of an eye, they had already formed a camp that was nearly 20 kilometers long on the plains west of Blue Wind Harbor. It was a very spectacular sight. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of horse hooves echoed in the snow on the coast. The white-robed Lin Muyu led Wei Chou and Sidu Sin to patrol the camp. This was also something that Marshal Lin Muyu had to do every day. The camp was too long, so it was necessary to patrol it. Otherwise, if something went wrong, it would be very troublesome. The treading snow warhorses panted heavily. In the face of such cold weather, even this kind of superior horse was somewhat tired. Needless to say, Wei Chou and Sidusen's warhorses. The three of them walked in front, followed by hundreds of cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp. Lin General. Wei Chou suddenly said, but hesitated. What do you want to ask? Lin Muyu said. Yes. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, Heaven's Pole Continent's Philae has been conferred the title of Demon God. The evil path is awe-inspiring, but what about us? Are we considered to be righteous? Why are we considered to be righteous? Wei Chou asked. Lin Muyu hesitated for a few seconds and said, We started the war to protect ourselves, to end the war, and for the long-term peace of the future. We kill for the sake of all living beings. With this belief, we are righteous. But is killing really considered to be righteous? We can only think of it that way. Lin General? Wei Chou frowned and did not say anything. What's wrong? In the future, where should we go? Wei Chou asked. Even the commander of the Longdan army camp asked this. Lin Muyu could not help but feel a wave of annoyance in her heart. The people's hearts were already in chaos. How could they calm them down? After a while, Lin Muyu said slowly, When I left the God realm, Big Brother's 7 luminaries demon emperor sacrificed himself to guard the 8 wasteland domain. I don't know if he's dead or alive, but he said something to me before I left, and it gave me some hope. What hope? This time, it was Wei Chou and Sidu Sin who asked together. The righteousness of heaven and earth, the vast and everlasting. Lin Muyu said in a deep voice, We live to fight. We, the soldiers of the great Qin dynasty, are unyielding and unyielding. We never fear a strong enemy's challenge. We fight to protect our homeland. This righteousness will definitely support us to the end. This is what I can tell you now. Wei Chou's eyes lit up and said, Thank you, Lin General. At this moment, the lights of the warships in the distance suddenly flickered. Along with the wind came the hoarse cries for help from humans. The sea, what's wrong? Lin Muyu asked. I don't know. Suddenly, there was a bang. The light from the magic crystal cannons surged on the sea, and the roars of wild beasts came from there. The Navy's warships must have met with trouble. Sidu Sin clenched his teeth and said, Let's go and take a look. Lin Muyu turned over and dismounted. She pulled out the Xianyuan sword and rushed to the sea. She stepped on the waves without sinking and quickly rushed to the distant sea. Sidu Sen and Wei Chou also took out their weapons and followed Lin Muyu on the waves. The two of them were not weak. Even if they were in the Holy King realm, they could at least walk on the waves. Roar, roar. On the sea, a ferocious beast that looked like a dragon but was not a dragon let out a roar. It opened its bloody mouth and spat out a large mouthful of frost. Immediately, the soldiers on half of the ship were forced to retreat. Many of them were even directly frozen. They would die without a doubt. Swoosh! A silhouette dashed over, and a golden light bloomed. It was Lin Muyu. The Xianyuan sword swept across the beast's neck, and with a poochie sound, the scales were cut open and blue blood flowed out. The giant beast wailed and twisted its huge body. Its tail was like a steel whip as it swept across from the back. Lin Muyu turned sideways and summoned the dragon blood shield with his left hand. With a loud bang, the powerful shock made him move dozens of meters horizontally on the surface of the sea. His feet left a trail on the waves, and his battle boots stepped on the surface of the water. His whole body shot out like lightning. The Xianyuan sword shone brightly, and with the mysterious energy of the chaos of the lives, he stabbed into the giant beast's body for the second time, leaving a long gap. Whoosh! A stream of light shot into the eye of the giant beast. It was Wei Chao's Ho Yibao. The shooting was extremely accurate. Lin Muyu shouted, "Blind the other eye too. Navy, don't fire anymore." In the distance, the generals on the warships ordered to stop firing to avoid hurting their own people. Wei Chou followed up with 2 more arrows. Suddenly, the giant beast became blind. Lin Muyu gathered strength in her arms and threw the Xianyuan sword. The long sword spun and flew over. Like a cannonball, it penetrated the head of the giant beast and shattered the spirit stone. Woo woo! In the howl, the giant beast died, and its huge body slowly floated to the surface. "Lin General, are you okay?" Behind him, a man on the warship asked loudly. Under the light of the torch, it was Beili Tsang, the commander of the navy. Lin Muyu shook her head and walked to the side of the ship. She asked, "Beili Tsang, what is this thing?" "The deep-sea dragon." Beili Tsang said, "I've only seen this thing twice in my life. The first time was when I went out to sea with my father when I was 7 or 8 years old. At that time, only 2 of our ships escaped. The deep-sea dragon has always lived in the deep sea, but now it appeared in the coastal waters. It's really unusual." Lin Muyu said, "The weather is abnormal because of the heavenly punishment, which brings a series of environmental changes. It's not unusual for the deep-sea dragon to appear in the coastal waters. You have to be careful and protect our warships. At night, try to get all the warships to return to the port to avoid unnecessary losses." "Yes, I understand." Chapter 1129. Late at night, another deep-sea flood dragon attacked the Blue Wind port, but it was secretly stopped by the Gong Gong Navy under the command of Candle Dragon. The next morning, the sea breeze was cold, mixed with tiny snowflakes, which smashed on the face, especially painful. When Lin Muyu returned to her tent after patrolling the camp, she discovered that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were brewing coffee in her living quarters. She had even brought back the equipment for brewing coffee from Earth. The 2 girls had already perfected the process of heating the coffee with alcohol. It was a rare opportunity to drink warm, fragrant coffee in Shattered Cauldron Realm. "Damn it, I can't live in peace." Feng Jixing walked in while cursing. He raised his head and said respectfully, "Your Highness and Princess are here as well." "Greetings, Your Highness." "Good morning, Your Highness." Qin Yin smiled and said, "Commander Feng, what's making you so angry? Sit down and have a cup of tea." "Thank you, Your Highness." Feng Jixing sat in front of Lin Muyu and said, Last night, the second deep-sea flood dragon attacked our port and overturned 3 ships and a fortress ship. Damn it, that fortress ship is our main warship. It can be used for transport and artillery battles. But this one cost over 100,000 Jining coins to build, and it sank with a wave of the dragon's tail." "I know." Lin Muyu pondered for a while and said, "Last night, I sent over 100 Gong Gong Navy soldiers into the deep sea to investigate. This morning, they reported back that because of the climate change in divine punishment, the air temperature has dropped, but the deep sea is heating up. Therefore, those deep-sea flood dragons couldn't stand the heat and all came ashore. Comparatively, they like the climate on land better." "How many deep-sea flood dragons are there?" Tens of thousands. If nothing unexpected happens, we will receive many reports of coastal fishermen being attacked by deep-sea flood dragons in 3 days. Do we need to send people to kill them? We can't. Ordinary soldiers are no match for deep-sea flood dragons. 100 soldiers may not be able to defeat a flood dragon, and the scales of these flood dragons can even resist magic crystal cannons. My goodness! Is he really that powerful? Feng Jixing clicked his tongue and said, "Then forget I said anything. But your Gong Gong Navy is powerful and good at water battles. Why don't you send them out to kill those flood dragons, in case those animals do harm to the world?" I've already ordered Candle Dragon to be in charge of the coastal defense. 30,000 Gong Gong Navy warriors will be divided into over 100 legions, patrolling our coastal areas to ensure that nothing goes wrong. That's good. Feng Jixing clapped his hands and smiled. Your Highness, is my tea ready? Wait a moment, I'll be done soon. Qin Yin smiled sweetly. At this moment, 2 beautiful figures walked in from outside. They were Chu Yao and Ouyang Yan. Sister Chu Yao, you're here? Lin Muyu stood up and personally moved a chair for Chu Yao. After Chu Yao sat down, she smiled sweetly and said, "So there are so many people, you must be here for something, right?" Chu Yao's eyes were as clear as water as she said in a low voice, "It's about the herbs. Over 30% of our warriors have frostbite on their hands and feet. The frostbite is spreading very fast, which will affect their fighting abilities. I've ordered to prepare gloves, boots, and other cold-proof items for them, but they can't be cured immediately. We still need some medicines to help them heal." "Don't you have any in stock in the department?" asked Feng Jixing. Chu Yao smiled, shook her head and said, "We did have some, but they've been used up in the past half a month. The weather is cold, and more soldiers are suffering from frostbite. Before I came here, I've already sent a purchase list to the chambers of commerce in the 5 Valley City and Muyu City. The stores in the departments of spiritual medicine are all out, but these merchants still have a lot in stock. However, the funds of the departments of spiritual medicine have been used up. Therefore, this cost has to be paid by the Ministry of Revenue." Qin Yin walked over with a cup of coffee, put it in front of Chu Yao, smiled and said, "I see. How much in total?" 800,000 Jinin coins. Chu Yao took out a list of funds from her pocket and said, "This list was issued by the Department of Spiritual Medicine and the Ministry of War. If I want to get the money from the Ministry of Revenue, I need the signatures of 2 people. One is yours, and the other is your Highness's." "No problem." Qin Yin smiled cheerfully, reached into her pocket, and took out a dark blue signature pen. "Wait a minute, Xiao Yin." Lin Muyu was speechless and said, "If you sign with a fountain pen, the Ministry of Revenue might not recognize it." "It's okay, I have the imperial seal, that's right, sign it." After Qin Yin signed, Lin Muyu also signed her name. Following which, she took out the marshal's seal from her Qianquan bag and stamped it. After that, she handed it over to Qin Yin. After Qin Yin stamped the Empress's imperial seal, it would be considered as an official signature. Chu Yao happily took the receipt, sat down again, and took a sip of coffee. She couldn't help but frown and say, "Wow, this taste is a little weird." Qin Yin smiled and said, Yes, I thought so too at first, but I felt much better after that. Sister Chu Yao, this is a specialty from Yu's hometown." "From Yu's hometown?" Chu Yao blinked her eyes and immediately took another sip. She smiled and said, "I like it. I will come over often in the future, is that okay?" "Of course." At this moment, Feng Jixing also took a sip and couldn't help but spit it out. "Wow, why does it taste like this?" Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi all stared at him. Cough cough. The taste is actually quite unique. Feng Jixing laughed awkwardly. At lunchtime, everyone ate together in Lin Muyu's tent. Even the Empress and the Marshal's meals weren't much better. They had porridge, flatbread, and a pot of meat soup. Furthermore, the meat was dried wild boar meat. It was hard to swallow and everyone's faces turned green. However, this was military rations and there was nothing they could do about it. There had never been any good meals in the military camp, and even the dried rations were very laughable. The main dried rations were flatbread or flatbread that was squeezed out of rice and dried in the sun. Once the troops were on the move, the spiritual fire division couldn't cook. Usually, they would just hastily boil water and let the soldiers soak the rice flatbread for a meal. In a war of life and death, no one would care about whether they ate well or not. They only cared about whether they could eat their fill and whether they had the strength. In the afternoon, there was a military conference. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing presided over the military conference. The commanders of all the major armies arrived one after another. Qin Yan, Tang Zhen, Chen Xiaoli, Su Jiantao, Wei Chou, Xiang Yu, Bai Litsong, Qian Feng, and the others were all present. The two sides of a huge long table were filled with high-ranking generals, and there was a heavy guard outside. These generals were too important. They were the core of the entire empire, and they had to be strictly protected. 3 huge paper scrolls formed a coastal defense map on the long table. On the map, small areas were marked, including the defenses of the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the coast of the Celestial Pole Continent, as well as the details of all the islands in the East Sea and even the northern continental shelf. All the generals looked grave, and the atmosphere of an unprecedented war spread out. Everyone was as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The opponent in this war was definitely not easy to deal with. After all, the opponent's military strength was more than twice their own. "Marshal, when are we launching the attack?" Everyone was silent, and only Xiang Yu opened his mouth to speak. "According to our preparations, we can go out to sea and start the war 3 days ago." "I know. Wait a moment." Lin Muyu placed her hand on the hilt of the sword at her waist and slowly walked past the generals. She came to the other side of the map, pointed at the West Mountain Province, and said, "The crux of this war is here." "West Mountain Province?" Wei Chou was stunned. "Milord, are you talking about the Bai Zhe mercenaries?" Lin Muyu nodded. "The Bai Zhe mercenaries are a chess piece that I left in the Celestial Pole Continent many years ago. Now, this chess piece has already caused Xianxia to be unable to eat or sleep in peace. Therefore, Xianxia will definitely face the Bai Zhe mercenaries as an opponent. After all, there is room for others on one's bed." Zhang Wei clenched his fists. "In my opinion, it would be better to directly charge over and use the West Mountain Province as a springboard to wipe out the army of that vile person Xianxia in one fell swoop." Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. "Old Zhang is purposely setting us up as a bad example again." Everyone laughed heartily. Zhang Wei was completely confused. Lin Muyu continued, "First of all, Xianxia's military strength far surpasses ours. Coupled with the fact that the Celestial Pole Continent's armored cavalry is extremely powerful, their total cavalry numbers over 500,000, and over 1,000 dragon riders. This is their advantage, while our advantage lies in the magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows. However, once we ascend to the Celestial Pole Continent and have a decisive battle with them on land, the speed of the cavalry will be extremely crucial. With Chen Yu's assistance, I believe that Xianxia will also understand how to use the cavalry's speed to wear down our cumbersome magic crystal cannons. In a battle on land, we will definitely suffer a loss, and a great one at that." Xiang Yu frowned. "Lin General means a naval battle?" "That's right." Lin Muyu raised her sword-like eyebrows and smiled. "Only by dragging Xianxia's army into a naval battle can we have a chance of winning. As far as I know, the navy of Xianxia's army is extremely powerful. Their warships can carry millions of troops into the sea. Our great Qin's ship can be called the king of naval battles. Together with the power of the magic crystal cannons, it is enough to deter the opponent. In addition, with the Gong Gong Navy under my control and the Hui Army of 8 Desolates Province, we have at least a 70% chance of winning." As she spoke, Lin Muyu pressed her hand heavily on the table and said each word forcefully. "In this battle, we must annihilate most of the effective forces of Xianxia's army and hold the control of the entire sea in the hands of our Qin Empire. We will suppress Xianxia's forces in the Celestial Pole Continent. After that, we can fight however we want. The key is, How can we make Yangshang underestimate the enemy and be willing to fight with us on the sea? Feng Jixing said. This, we need to think about it at length. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Bai Zai's mercenary group is the key. Let's wait for Si Kongyao to come. As for the battlefield, I think it should be near here. He gently pressed his palm on a certain place on the map. Tang Zhen's eyebrows relaxed and murmured, Changyuan Island. Chapter 1130. That's right, it's Changyuan Island. Lin Muyu said in a low voice. Changyuan Island is evergreen all year round and has a flat terrain. Furthermore, the island is in the shape of a ring. The inland sea can be used as a safe haven and can anchor at least 3,000 warships, which is enough for us to hide 300,000 troops on Changyuan Island. Changyuan Island is about 240 kilometers away from the celestial pole continent, and it will only take a day to sail there. There are also 2 islands between Changyuan Island and the celestial pole continent called Greenstone Island and Eternal Wind Island. The 3 islands are in a triangular formation. We can use a fleet as bait and set up an ambush on either Eternal Wind Island or Greenstone Island. Once the battle breaks out, the 3 islands will be able to dispatch troops at the same time and form an encirclement, preventing Yangshang's warships from coming in. Xianxia took a deep breath and said, Why is Lin General so confident? It's not confidence, but planning step by step. This is the best result, and what we need to do is to bring Yangshang into the grave we have dug for him. Chen Feng smiled cheerfully. The plan must be more thorough, or else it will be difficult to carry it out. That's right. Lin Muyu sat down, took a sip of green tea and said, We will do our best to make the plan even more thorough and perfect. Tang Zhen smiled and said, We are all prepared. Marshal, please give the order. I need 2 fleets to station at Eternal Wind Island and Greenstone Island as the vanguard, putting on a show to distract Yangshang's attention. Each fleet has about 50,000 people. Who is willing to go? Everyone was stunned. A mere 50,000 troops was probably not even enough to fill the gaps between Yangshang's 5 million troops. At this time, Qin Yan stood up, cupped his fists, and said, Big brother, I am willing to lead the 50,000 vanguard troops of the National Army to carry out this mission. Big brother, please allow it. Yan, Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, Sit down first. Big brother, you think I can't carry out this mission well? Qin Yan was a little anxious. In the chaos of the National Army, Qin Yan had always played the role of the antagonist. Qin Yan really wanted to prove his family's loyalty to the empire. It's not that I can't, but it's not suitable. Lin Muyu smiled and said calmly, Yan, you are naive and straightforward. Once you are in a battle, you will be easily bewitched by your opponent. I need 2 more mature people to carry out this task. Since no one is saying anything, I will take my place. Su Jiantao, Chen Feng, you 2 will carry out this task. Su Jiantao and Chen Feng stood up and cupped their fists. Yes, Marshal. We will not let you down. You must be extra careful. We will depart tomorrow morning, and I will contact you through the scout bee. Chen Feng cupped his fists. Thank you, Lin General, for your trust in us. No. Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled. You are all famous generals of the present age. I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to command a group of famous generals in this unprecedented war. Everyone laughed. In the evening, a speedboat entered the nearby waters and entered the harbor under the protection of 8 Imperial Navy warships. Then, a row of cavalry galloped away and entered the center of the Qin army. Yao is here? Lin Muyu was very excited after receiving the news. She led Wei Chou, Feng Jixing, and the others out of the tent. In the distance, Si Kongyao rode over on a warhorse, her face full of joy. Big brother you. She leapt from her horse and flew into Lin Muyu's embrace, hugging this big brother whom she had not seen for a long time tightly. Tears swirled in her eyes. The pressure she had endured these days was really too great. Yao Yao. Lin Muyu helped her wipe her tears and said gently, Is everyone all right? Everyone's fine, everyone's fine. Si Kongyao's shoulders trembled slightly. But big brother you, our West Mountain province has fallen. I led 150,000 troops to board a ship first. 3 days later, we received news that West Mountain province has fallen. The Bai Zhe mercenaries left in Shiping City have all taken off their uniforms and fled into the countryside. It's good that you're fine, Lin Mu gently stroked her hair. When will the troops you brought arrive? They will arrive at Blue Wind Harbor in a day. From now on, you will follow by my side. This war still needs you. Min. At this time, Lu Bai and a few of the Bai Zhe mercenaries' deputy commanders dismounted and knelt on one knee. Greetings, Marshal. Rise. Lin Mu asked, Bai, how was the situation in the Heavens Pole continent when you left? Xianxia ordered Qin Yu to lead 1,000,000 troops to swallow up our West Mountain province and Huiyuan province. They should have already set up defenses along the coast and are preparing to welcome Great Qin's troops. Chen Yu's 1,000,000 troops? What is Chen Yu like? Feng Jixing asked. Lin Muyu's expression was grave. He has a strategic mind and is extremely cunning. He is an opponent that must be taken seriously. I originally thought that Xianxia would personally supervise the battle. I didn't think that he would let Qin Yu lead the troops. This is troublesome. You're swearing, Mu. Tang Xiaoxi said. Oh, it's sorry. Lin Muyu touched her nose. Feng Jixing frowned. Is Qin Yu really that scary? Yes. Lin Muyu pondered and said, You can say that. If Xianxia is the one leading the troops, 10 Xianxia combined won't be a match for any one of us. But if it's Qin Yu, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to lure Qin Yu's 1,000,000 troops to the sea for a decisive battle. Qin Yu is full of schemes and is a cautious person. He won't attack easily if he doesn't have a 100% chance of winning. Feng Jixing patted his shoulder. It's okay. Qin Yu is a man now, not a god. There will always be flaws. Don't think too much. Arrange the camp for Bai Zhe's mercenaries as soon as possible. Yes. At night, the heavy snow began to fall again. Only Lin Muyu was left in the commander's tent. Facing the flickering candlelight, his eyes lingered on the 3 islands on the map. He murmured, Food, food. According to the plan, stationing 300,000 troops on Changyuan Island was as difficult as Qianfeng had said. A thorough plan was needed to complete this grand undertaking, and food was the primary problem. The empire didn't have many warships. Large warships could carry an average of 180 people. 4,000 warships of different sizes could transport 300,000 people and about 100,000 warhorses to Changyuan Island. But this also meant that the warships couldn't carry more food and fresh water. It would take at least 5 days to travel from Shattered Cauldron Realm to Changyuan Island. Even if they carried 10 days' worth of rations for each person, by the time they sent 300,000 troops to Changyuan Island, half of the food would have been consumed. It would take at least 20 days for the warships to return and transport the rations. And this was under the optimistic condition that they didn't encounter any storms. Then what would the 300,000 troops eat on the island? They had to hold on for at least half a month. The army couldn't go without food. If the soldiers went hungry, they wouldn't be able to fight, and they might even mutiny. No one wanted to see such an outcome. Lin Muyu had a headache as he racked his brains. Before he knew it, he fell asleep on the table. After an unknown period of time, someone suddenly called him, Brother, wake up, brother. When he looked up, he saw a scout bee flapping its wings beside his ear. It was Lulu from the Celestial the Arch system. Lulu, come out. Lin Muyu chuckled. Soon, the scout bee landed on the map and flapped its wings. A beam of light shot out from its back and condensed into the image of Lulu. She was still so cute and flamboyant. Flapping her wings lightly in the air, she said with a smile, Brother, why aren't you sleeping on the bed? Oh, I forgot. Why did Lulu suddenly think of looking for me? Brother, you haven't looked for Lulu since you returned to Earth. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Of course not. Brother, you look so depressed. Did you run into some trouble? Lulu clasped her hands together and looked at Lin Muyu with a worried expression. I did run into a problem. What's the problem? Tell Lulu. Transporting rations. Lin Muyu said, I need to transport a large amount of rations to Changyuan Island, but But I don't have enough warships. What do I do? Lulu, do you have a way to build some ships for me? Build ships? Lulu blinked. I'm afraid not. It would take too much time. Lulu has been busy planting potatoes during this time and has no time to do anything else. But, if you really want to transport rations, why do you have to build ships? Oh, Lulu has a way? Lulu flapped her wings and smiled. Did you forget about the scout bees, brother? Back then, the celestial arch system created tens of billions of scout bees. There are at least 500 million of them left in Shattered Cauldron Realm. Although a scout bee can only carry a limited amount of weight, it can still carry something the size of a soybean. As for rations, Lulu can break down the dried potatoes into very small pieces and let the scout bees send them to Changyuan Island. Isn't that enough? Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat and she was pleasantly surprised. Yes, why didn't I think of that? Lulu swayed her hips and chuckled as if she was asking for praise. Brother, praise me. Praise me. Lulu is the most capable. Is it Changyuan Island? Lulu has located it. Yes. Soon, Lulu scanned the coordinates of Changyuan Island. Suddenly, the entire island appeared in front of Lin Muyu. The jungles, plains, mountains, and animals on the island appeared in real time. Lulu said, there are no large animals on Changyuan Island. There are 542 medium-sized animals and more than 10,000 small animals. There are 27 caves on the island, and each cave can store about 400 tons of rations. So, Lulu ordered the scout bees to send the rations to these caves? Lin Muyu nodded heavily. Because of the snow, the rations would definitely be damp and moldy if they were left in the open. It was a good choice to put them in the caves. A beam of light dissipated. Lulu went to work. Lin Muyu was relieved. She turned over, took off her clothes, and covered herself with the quilt. She could finally sleep in peace. Chapter 1131. The next day, the war drums rumbled. Rows of cavalrymen, Pidao soldiers, and archers boarded the ships and set off with the sound of the horn. It was windy from the northwest at this time, so it would take them less than 7 days to reach Greenstone Island and Jiufeng Island. 2 huge battle flags were written with the words Su and Qian. Su Jiantao and Qianfeng stood under the flag with their horses in a dignified manner, waiting for Lin Muyu and Qin Yin to bid farewell. Rustle, rustle, the war drums were getting heavier and heavier. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin stepped on the snow toward the senior generals who were about to set off. Your Highness! Su Jiantao and Qianfeng knelt on one knee at the same time and saluted. Commanders, please dispense with the formalities. Qin Yin raised her hand gracefully and said, this expedition will be extremely dangerous. I hope that both of you will work together and make great contributions to the great Qin Empire. Yes, we understand. Qianfeng looked up at Lin Muyu and asked, Lin General, is there anything else? Lin Muyu slowly walked forward with her hand on the hilt of her sword and stood side by side with Su Jiantao and Qianfeng. Her eyes fell on the 10 fifth-rank deputy generals behind them. Although their ranks were not high, they were all captaincy and held military power. When they saw Lin Muyu looking at them, they immediately knelt down and said, Greetings, Marshal. Lin Muyu nodded and said calmly, You are all brave generals of the Qin Empire. You are the vanguard of this expedition. Remember, you must listen to the orders of Generals Su Jiantao and Qianfeng. From today on, you are no longer just generals of the Longdan Army Camp and the National Army, but will be assigned to the Vanguard Camp. You must listen to your superiors in all matters. If you disobey, you will be killed. Do you understand? Yes, Marshal. After all, the 50,000 soldiers assigned to Su Jiantao were transferred from the Longdan Army Camp, while the 50,000 soldiers assigned to Qianfeng were transferred from the National Army. Lin Muyu had to establish their authority first. Otherwise, she might not be able to command these high-ranking generals. Don't worry, Lin General. We will definitely be of one mind and serve the Empire. Qianfeng's eyes were filled with gratitude. After all, Qianfeng was also an extremely intelligent person. He understood Lin Muyu's intentions the moment she spoke. Su Jiantao also cupped his fists and said, "Don't worry, sir. We will definitely complete the mission. Alright, all of you take care. Once the naval battle is over, I'll hold a celebration feast for all of you. Go ahead. Be careful on the way." "Yes." The two of them turned around and led their horses away, never looking back again. Very quickly, their figures disappeared into the wind and snow, leaving only the shadows of two azure cloaks swaying in the snow. Dong, dong. The sound of the war drums became louder and louder. 100,000 imperial warriors set off for battle. Qin Yin stood there as if she had lost something. She looked at the East Sea with her beautiful eyes and had mixed feelings in her heart. "What's wrong, Xiao Yin?" Lin Muyu could see that she was feeling uneasy. "Brother Yu, we sent them to the battlefield, but we can't guarantee that we will bring them back alive. Is this fair to them?" Qin Yin bit her red lips and murmured to Lin Muyu, "Sometimes I feel like a bad woman. For the sake of my own world, I let these people who love me embark on a path of no return." Lin Muyu's heart ached. She stepped forward to hold her shoulders and said, "It's not like that. They are all soldiers, and protecting their homeland is their duty and mission. No one will blame you. You are the Empress, and every soldier feels honored for fighting for you. All the more, you cannot be shaken. The war is only for the sake of a greater rule of the world." "Will there really be a greater rule of the world?" "Yes, it won't be too far away." Lin Muyu coughed, tightened the belt of the robe in front of Qin Yin's chest, and said, "It's cold outside. Let's go back." Accompanied by Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao, Qin Yin entered the main tent. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu gave Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Qin Yan, Chen Xiaoli, and the others a look. Everyone understood tacitly and immediately followed Lin Muyu to the commander's tent. The commander's tent was filled with warmth, and the guards placed the furnaces in one by one. "Lin General!" Xiang Yu shouted. Suddenly, he didn't know what to say and just sat in his seat woodenly. "I know what you want to say, Commander Xiang Yu." Lin Muyu smiled in relief and said, "We'll set out in 5 days. We'll mobilize 300,000 soldiers to board the warships, and we can start to gather provisions and transport them to the ships now. In addition, these 300,000 soldiers must be the most elite troops of the Empire, and no one is allowed to make up the numbers." "Set out in 5 days?" Tang Zhen frowned. "Our provisions are not ready yet. I ask Lin General to reconsider. We're going to Changyuan Island, that barren land, and not the celestial pole continent. Once we're on Changyuan Island, there won't be any more provisions to speak of. We can't let the 3 armies eat tree bark, right? I've already prepared the rations. Just set off for Changyuan Island." Lin Muyu had absolute confidence in Lulu's efficiency. She was the strongest person in this land. If Lulu started a war of steel, perhaps neither Great Qin nor Great Shang would be able to resist. Feng Jixing said, "You first plan the composition of these 300,000 soldiers?" Lin Muyu pondered for a moment, then put the military orders on the table and said slowly, 300,000 soldiers, 100,000 in the Longdan army camp, commanded by Wei Chou. Receive the order." Wei Chou stepped forward, saluted respectfully, and then took the order arrow. Lin Muyu continued, 50,000 elites of the Imperial Army, commanded by Feng Jixing. Receive the order. Feng Jixing stood up, took the order arrow, and said, "This subordinate obeys." As for the rest, the State Guarding Army, Mingshan Army, National Army, Seven Seas Army, Iron Blade Army, and Imperial Navy will each select 25,000 elites. They will be commanded by Tang Zhen, Xiang Yu, Qin Yan, Chen Xiaoli, Qin Yong, and Bailey Tsang respectively. "Yes, Marshal." The 6 of them stood up to receive the order arrow, their faces full of reverence and solemnity. This battle concerned the future fate of the Empire, as well as the future fate of the 3 realms. The War of Gods had become a war of mortals. No one knew if these mortals would become gods again in the future. After Lin Muyu finished distributing the prepared order arrows, she pondered for a moment and said, "I will oversee the Central Army and advance and retreat together with everyone. This trip must be carried out in secret. Don't let the celestial pole continent know our whereabouts, and even more so, don't let the people of the celestial pole continent know that we are on Changyuan Island. Otherwise, all our efforts will be in vain. Xianxia frowned and said, Marshal, what should we do if the Dragon Knights of the celestial pole continent discover our whereabouts? Don't worry, we also have aerial troops. Lin Muyu said, Commander Xianxia, have you forgotten the 8,000 Xingtian army under my command? They ride the undying phoenix and can travel unhindered in the sky. I will order them to patrol the skies around Changyuan Island in advance. Once traces of the Dragon Knights are discovered, they will immediately launch an attack. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the news leaking out. That's great. This subordinate no longer has any doubts. A hint of joy appeared on Xiangyu's face. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Go back and make preparations. Prepare more lifeboats, medicine, and dry rations. In addition, the elite troops of each army must be reorganized. 3 days later, report to me the name list of all Kiliarchs and officers above them. I want to take a look. Yes, Lin General. Everyone left one after another. Only Wei Chou stayed in the commander's tent. He was from the Longdan army camp, and the commander's tent was located in the middle of the Longdan army camp. Naturally, he didn't need to leave. This time, 100,000 of the 300,000 troops were from the Longdan army camp. It was clear that the Longdan army camp was the main force of the war. Wei Chou didn't dare to slack off. He stood up with a cautious expression and said, Sir, are you really not going to bring any Dragon League champions? Yes, the Dragon League is not good at sea battles. I can't send them to their deaths. Then you can at least bring Fuzhu. Yes, you have reminded me. Fuzhu will definitely go with us to Changyuan Island. In addition, Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi will also go with us to oversee the overall situation. If Her Highness Yin also goes, that will be great. She will definitely inspire the 3 armies. You really know how to talk. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She asked, Wei Chou, how is your practice with the Ho Yi Bao? How far can you draw it now? Wei Chou thought for a moment and said, Sir, please forgive me. When I was still a god, I could draw the bow 1,000 meters, but now I can only draw it about 700 meters. Any further and I can't guarantee that I can hit the enemy. 700 meters? That's enough. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, Remember, you will be on the same ship as me in the sea battle. Leave the command of the Longdan army camp to Situ Sin, Situ Shui, and Fengxi. I want you to advance and retreat with me. When the time comes, I will attract strong enemies to kill me. I will use myself as bait, and you must shoot one at a time. Don't miss me. Cold sweat appeared on Wei Chou's face. I will do my best. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She reached out and patted his shoulder. She said, Tell me honestly, isn't it especially difficult to be my subordinate? That's right, Wei Chou grinned. It's good that you know it, sir. Lin Muyu smiled. Brat, this time, I really have to rely on your Ho Yi Bao. The power of the Ho Yi Bao is mysterious. It can break through the dimensional space and achieve unobstructed shooting. It's simply a killer of gods. Yang Shang has so many God Emperor experts under him. We will be under great pressure on the battlefield. It all depends on your performance. Once the battle starts, I will let Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, and Ouyang Yan protect you. You just need to find targets and shoot them. Let Her Highness and the princess protect me together. Wei Chou was dumbfounded. Sir, why don't you let Her Highness protect me? I'm afraid I will be very nervous. You're so useless. Just stay calm. Yes, I'll do my best. At this moment, the curtain of the commander's tent was suddenly lifted. Si Kongyao walked in gracefully with Lu Bai and other generals of the Bai Zhe mercenary troop. She said angrily, Brother Yu, why don't you assign us, the Bai Zhe mercenary troop, to battle? Lin Muyu complained incessantly. Oh my God, this little lady is here. It's not easy to deal with her. Chapter 1132. Yao, listen to my explanation. I won't listen. I won't listen. Don't be impatient, calm down and listen to me. I won't listen, I won't listen. Si Kongyao sat angrily on her seat, her beautiful eyes staring at Lin Muyu. She was just short of crossing her slender legs on the table to show off her coquettishness. Lu Bai touched his nose and coughed, saying, "Commander, we're here to argue with Lin General, not to act coquettishly." Wei Chou burst into laughter. "What are you laughing at?" Si Kongyao glared at him with a murderous look. Wei Chou didn't dare to laugh. This young lady was Lin Muyu's sworn sister and held the military power of the 300,000 Baizhe mercenaries. She was an extraordinary person and he couldn't afford to offend her. Si Kongyao continued, "Big brother Yu, tell me clearly, why is there no one from our Baizhe mercenaries among the 300,000 people?" Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed and explained, "I'm thinking for the sake of the Baizhe mercenaries. Think about it, Yao, the Baizhe mercenaries have only come from the celestial pole continent for a day and are exhausted from the long journey. The soldiers' physical strength is already at the limit. I can't continue to let them fight. It's too unfair to them, right? Even if what you say makes sense, I still won't accept it. At least give me 10,000 people. You conscripted my warships but didn't let us go to war with you. This is unreasonable." Lin Muyu was speechless. Wei Chou smiled and said, "Milord, forgive me for being blunt. Since Changyuan Island has enough provisions, why didn't you let Miss Si Kongyao go with you? Besides, we only conscripted less than 500 warships from the Baizhe mercenaries. They still have 700 warships left. These 700 warships can transport more than 100,000 soldiers plus provisions and supplies." Wei Chou lowered his voice and said, "Your Excellency, let me say something unpleasant. Although your plan is thorough, you have forgotten one thing. What will be sent to Changyuan Island through the scout bees is only food for humans. What about the provisions for the warhorses? We have brought nearly 200,000 warhorses, and without fodder, we won't be able to support them. Besides, the weather is freezing, and the soldiers need a lot of charcoal to warm their bodies. The Spirit Fire Department also needs wood to cook. The wood on Changyuan Island will be cut down in 3 days. We still need to bring a large amount of wood and fodder to Changyuan Island." Lin Muyu was surprised and couldn't help but look at Wei Chou. This brat had indeed grown into a great general who could take charge of an area by himself. He still remembered things that even she had neglected. However, he had probably held it in for a long time and only dared to speak up when Si Kongyao appeared. "All right then," Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "Then we'll add another 50,000 soldiers. Yao, choose 50,000 elites from the Baizhe mercenaries to go with me. In addition, these 50,000 elites will only need 300 warships to transport them. Transfer the remaining 400 warships to transport charcoal and provisions. This time, I'll give you a military rank, Chief Logistics Officer. What do you think? Why don't you give me a vanguard official?" Si Kongyao stamped her feet and asked coquettishly. Lu Bai coughed and said, "Big sister, you should know when to stop. A chief logistics officer is still an officer." Si Kongyao pouted and said, "Okay then, it's a deal. You can't go back on your word. Don't worry. Go and prepare quickly. Give me your officer list in 3 days." "Okay." Celestial Pole Continent, Shiping City. This city, which originally belonged to Shiping County Lord Si Kongyao, had now fallen into the hands of Xianxia's army. Ever since Qin Yu led his army into the city, the owner of this city had changed. Inside Shiping Prefecture, heavy snow was falling. The guards and attendants were all wearing thick cotton clothes to withstand the abnormal weather. In the depths of the mansion, green smoke drifted from the heaters. A group of officers dressed in the military uniforms of the Shang nation surrounded a huge square table. On the square table was a sand table map of the west coast. Cough, cough, cough. Qin Yu coughed violently. Due to the abnormal weather and the fact that the heavenly punishment had taken away all of his divine power, his physical condition was deteriorating day by day. He placed his palm on the table of the sand table, but his gaze was fixed in the direction of the coastline. He said, "Are there any movements from the Shattered Cauldron realm?" A captaincy cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to Marshal, we received news 3 days ago that Lin Muyu has gathered nearly 1 million soldiers in Lingdong province. They seem to be ready to attack us. Chen Yu couldn't help but smile faintly. Are you sure that Lin Muyu wants to face us head-on and not attack us? This can't be, right? Captain Si said, our Shang dynasty has over 2 million soldiers, while the Qin dynasty only has less than 1 million soldiers. Their military strength is less than half of our army, yet they want to attack us. Isn't this courting death? This can only mean that you don't understand Lin Muyu. Chen Yu's eyes flashed, and he said, Lin Muyu isn't someone those mediocre so-called famous generals in the various countries of the celestial pole continent can be compared to. He repeatedly comes up with ingenious schemes and foresees the enemy. In the entire celestial pole continent, no one can be compared to him. Even the famous Marshal Gong Shangming of the Tianji Empire was defeated by Lin Muyu. Marshal, you're exaggerating, aren't you? On the other side of the sand table, a man wearing a purple cloak slowly stood up from his chair. It was the Lionheart demon god, Filet. His eyes seemed to carry a demonic nature, and his whole body gave off an awe-inspiring evil aura. He smiled and said, if Lin Muyu was really that powerful, he wouldn't have been suppressed by our army in the Shattered Cauldron realm for so many years. Don't you think so, everyone? All the generals laughed loudly and repeatedly agreed. Chen Yu frowned and said, Deputy Marshal Filet might have a point, but the art of war says that those who underestimate the enemy are easily defeated. Therefore, it's best that we don't underestimate Lin Muyu and the Qin army. At the end of the day, Lin Muyu is just a mortal. A divine light shone in Filet's eyes as he sneered arrogantly, if Lin Muyu really dares to attack the celestial pole continent, I won't wait for him to enter the sea. I'll go there alone and chop off his head. What does Marshal think? Qin Yu was stunned. He didn't know whether what Filet said was true or not, but he could confirm that Filet was the only god in the entire plane. Furthermore, he was a cruel and ruthless demon god. Only he had the qualifications to say such big words. However, whether he could kill Lin Muyu under the protection of Feng Jixing, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others was still unknown. Furthermore, even if Lin Muyu had lost his divine power, it didn't mean that he didn't have the strength to fight back. There's a plum forest in the backyard of Shiping Prefecture. Furthermore, I've prepared over 10 elegant women who are proficient in the 4 arts. The weather is cold and the plum blossoms are in full bloom. Why doesn't Deputy Marshal Filet come to the backyard to admire the plum blossoms and drink wine? Said Chen Yu with a smile. Are you expelling me? Asked Filet, raising his eyebrows. I wouldn't dare. Filet sneered and circled around Chen Yu's body. That's fine too. You're the punitive expedition marshal appointed by Emperor Shang, and I'm merely the deputy marshal. The military authority of this million-strong army belongs to you. However, Marshal, don't forget that fighting a war is done with fists and not a glib tongue. As he spoke, Filet turned around and laughed. Commanders, who is willing to go to the backyard with me to admire the plum blossoms? Feel free to come. There were over 10 commanders in the 2 armies. In the end, with a wave of Filet's arm, there were actually 7 commanders who followed him to the backyard to admire the plum blossoms. Chen Yu clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were bloodshot with anger. Marshal, please calm down. A commander lowered his voice and said, Lord Filet is Emperor Shang's favorite, and he's also the vanguard general. Even Emperor Shang is somewhat afraid of him. Marshal, you must not provoke him. I know. Let's continue our discussion. Yes, Marshal. Chen Yu coughed violently again and said, when Lin Muyu deploys his troops, he focuses on the word surprise. But no matter how capable he is, he only has so many troops in his hands. Everyone, please watch carefully. Currently, there are over 1 million troops garrisoned in Shiping Prefecture. Si Kongyao has left us a complete province and a well-defended coastline. In the end, if Lin Muyu wants to defeat us, he will have to go ashore. Therefore, we don't need to fight for the sea. Just let the Qin army go ashore. Once they go ashore, they will be outnumbered. The iron hooves and dragon riders of our great Shang army will let Lin Muyu know the tragic outcome of challenging a battle with a great disparity in strength. The group of commanders nodded their heads. Chen Yu emphasized once again, remember, no one is allowed to go out to sea to provoke them. Even more so, do not attempt to engage the Qin army in naval battles. As long as we stabilize our position, Lin Muyu's army will definitely be in disarray. They won't be able to last long without rations. Once their rations run out, it will be time for us to destroy the Qin army in one fell swoop. Yes, Marshal. This time, there was even more conviction in the eyes of the commanders. 3 days later, the Blue Wind Harbor was calm and peaceful. Amidst the curtain of snow, warships left the harbor one after another and sailed into the eastern sea. There wasn't even the sound of war drums. Since early morning, the snow had been getting heavier and heavier, and this heavy snow undoubtedly provided the best cover for the three armies to set out. The 350,000 soldiers boarded the warships one after another and left the coast. And the warship that Lin Muyu was on was the last to leave. Almost everyone on this flagship were important people. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Wei Chou, Chu Yao, Ouyang Yan, Chang Liang, Feng Zhanlin, Nengong Lai and the others were all on this warship. Heave the anchor, flap the sails. The sergeant shouted loudly. The warship retracted the deck and slowly left the Blue Wind Harbor. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and the others stood at the stern of the ship, watching the mainland getting further and further away. Wei Chou raised his hand to cover his eyes, looked at the camp in the distance, and said, "Milord, are we really not going to tear down so many tents?" "Yes, let the tents remain in their original position." "Why do we do this?" Sidu Sen was a little puzzled. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "It's very simple. No matter how we guard against it, the Dragon Knights of the Heavens Pole continent will definitely be able to investigate everything in Lingdong province. I have already ordered for these tents to be left behind. Every day, there will be people from Lingdong province lighting fires around the tents and pretending that smoke is normal in every camp. Once the Dragon Knights report back to Qinyu, naturally, Qinyu will not suspect that we are not in Lingdong province. In this case, these tents will be our best cover. Lin General is wise. But why do you say that Qinyu might not suspect us?" "Qinyu? He is an extremely intelligent person." Lin Muyu reached out and pressed her hand into the snow on the side of the ship, feeling the cold, and said, "We must proceed with caution. Otherwise, as long as Qinyu finds any of our flaws, he may consign us to eternal damnation." Chapter 1133. Late at night, nearly 400 miles away from the Winter Ridge province. The waves on the surface of the sea surged, and the most violent part even stirred up waves that were nearly 5 meters high. Although the battleships built by the Empire were all very large, they were still bobbing up and down like small boats, as if they could be capsized by the mysterious power of the sea at any time. Except for the helmsmen, scouts, and soldiers who were keeping watch, most people had already gone into their cabins to rest. The fleet seemed to be very quiet. 3,550,000 people and nearly 4,800 warships were divided into 24 groups, sailing in the ocean according to the echelons. The warships alone had spread for tens of miles on the ocean. Many small lamps were hung on each ship, which were used to communicate with each other and illuminate the flag bearers. The snow stopped again, but the ocean surface grew colder. The waves bumped against the sides of the ships, but were already frozen by the time they landed on the ships. On the deck, every 5 meters, there was a sentry with a sword in their hands. These sentry guards stood like mountains, motionless, not moving even a little bit no matter how the wind blew and how the snow fell. On the deck, a person was standing, wearing a white fox fur cloak. It was Lin Muyu. He placed his hand on the handrail of the ship and closed his eyes. He activated his spirit pulse technique and sensed everything around him at the bottom of the sea. 5 kilometers away, the vanguard fleet led by Feng Jixing was opening up a path. Even further away, there were auras flying at high speed in the air. Those were the patrolling troops of the Xingtian Heavenly Army. The Xingtian Heavenly Army would play an extremely important role in this expedition. The Empire could only rely on them to deal with the dragon riders. In the deep ocean, enormous creatures seemed to be ready to move. They were deep-sea flood dragons. Apart from them, about 10 meters under the ocean, Gong Gong's navy warriors were guarding the fleet with weapons in their hands. They didn't show their heads for the whole day, but they had been guarding the fleet. In fact, no one knew that in the afternoon, over 10 deep-sea flood dragons attempted to attack the fleet, but were all killed by Gong Gong's navy warriors on the bottom of the ocean. Otherwise, another great disturbance would be caused. The spirit pulse magic reached further away, and no power could be sensed at all. Lin Muyu couldn't help but furrow his brows. Had his cultivation fallen to such an extent? He could only sense auras within 5 kilometers. If it were in the past, sensing auras from 1,000 kilometers away would not be an issue. He raised his head and looked up at the sky. There was a faint sound of thunder. Although the heavenly punishment had already descended, it did not seem to have left. The weather was still getting worse by the day. He did not know what was happening in the heaven realm. It felt as if the heaven realm had already changed. Otherwise, the mortal realm would not have such a terrible scene of doomsday. The first demon god had already descended. It was a god. It seemed that the new laws and order had already been established. The future gods would be divided into 3 levels: high, middle, and low. However, if they were all cruel and ruthless demon gods, it would be a nightmare for humans. Where was the future? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and couldn't help but sigh. In the past, when she had the power of an emperor god, she felt that she could control everything. But now, she couldn't anymore. Everyone's fate was in the hands of heaven's will. His Royal Highness is still awake? A gentle voice sounded from behind him. He didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. It was Ouyang Yen. "Ouyang, why aren't you sleeping?" Lin Muyu asked. Ouyang Yen walked forward and stood side by side with Lin Muyu. As if she felt cold, she put her face on Lin Muyu's shoulder and snuggled up to him. She said, "I can't sleep. What about you?" "I can't sleep either." Lin Muyu looked at the distant waves and asked, "Why can't you sleep?" "I'm worried that I won't be able to get married in the future." Ouyang Yan's eyes flashed with slyness. She smiled and asked, "What about you?" "I'm worried that I'll lose the battle," Lin Muyu answered truthfully. "Oh my, it's not easy. Our invincible Highness Yu is actually worried that he can't defeat the celestial pole continent? It seems that your confidence is just an act for others to see." "You can say that," Lin Muyu smiled bitterly and asked, "Ouyang, have you seen the heavenly punishment before?" "No, I'm such a young god. How could I have seen this kind of mighty heavenly might?" Ouyang Yan's bright eyes stared at Lin Muyu's face. After looking for a while, she smiled and said, "I'm afraid that what you're really worried about isn't the battle, but the devil god called Filet from the other side?" "You're so smart." Lin Muyu glanced at her approvingly and said, "The difference in strength between gods and mortals is too great. Back then Luo Lan, a mere false god, was able to destroy our mountains and rivers. Now, a middle god has actually appeared on the other side. No one knows how strong this middle god is, so I'm always uncertain." "Middle god," Ouyang Yen raised the corner of her mouth and said with a smile, "I heard that the southern divine realm used to have such a ranking system. The gods were divided into 3 ranks: lower god, middle god, and higher god. Later, this system was abandoned and redivided into 3 ranks: hierarch, divine king, and god emperor. They are essentially the same. If nothing goes wrong, that middle god should be around the level of divine king. Of course, it's not impossible." After all, after the heavenly punishment, order was re-established. Perhaps the new gods are far stronger than the old gods. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What are we going to use to fight against the evil devil god in the future?" "We'll deal with it when it comes. What are you worried about? Besides, the laws are mutually reinforcing. Since there are devil gods, then there will definitely be righteous gods in the future." "Righteous gods?" "Yes, they're more or less the gods who defend the righteous path." Lin Muyu suddenly thought of the demon emperor's words, "The righteousness of heaven and earth is vast and everlasting." Everyone with an obsession had a breath of righteousness, but would this breath of righteousness really be recognized by the heavens and ascend to become a god? At least until now, Lin Muyu hadn't felt the slightest summon from the divine oracle, let alone the recovery of her strength. Ouyang Yen blinked her eyes, as if she had guessed what Lin Muyu was thinking. She hugged one of his arms and said with a smile, "It's all right. This devil god Philae only ascended to become a god when his savagery reached the pinnacle. As for us, once the obsession in our hearts reaches the pinnacle, we will definitely regain our divine power, just like you and me right now. Right now?" Lin Muyu looked at her. "That's right." Ouyang Yen gently twisted her slender waist and rubbed her full chest against Lin Muyu's arm. She said, "Our current posture is originally not tolerated by the world, but now it seems so natural. It's because I, Ouyang Yen, respect and love you. I've long placed you in an extremely important position at the bottom of my heart." "Is that so? Isn't it because of the darkness of the night?" Lin Muyu smiled and pulled back her arm. "Don't be like this in the future. If Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi see this, I'll have to kneel on the washboard." Your Highness, you really are a coward." "Can I not be a coward?" As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Muyu's entire body suddenly trembled. "Not good. What's wrong?" "A powerful aura has intruded into our fleet's range from the sky. It's a dragon rider. The celestial pole continent's dragon riders have come. Should we head over now?" "No need." Lin Muyu waved her hand. "Situ Sen has already brought the Xingtian army over." Situ Sen was also a dragon rider, and together with the power of the Xingtian army's undying phoenix knights, a trifling celestial pole continent's dragon rider wasn't a problem at all. Sure enough, roughly 10 minutes later, a row of Xingtian army soldiers appeared in the sky, covered in raging flames. Situ Sen spurred on an enormous dragon and brought several dragon riders from the Longdan army camp down from the sky. At the same time, they tossed the corpse of an enormous dragon onto the deck. Snow flew everywhere. Situ Sen flipped his body over and landed on the deck. He respectfully said, "Sir, this dragon rider tried to spy on our military intelligence, so we've already killed him on the spot." Lin Muyu shot at a glance. This was a blue dragon. Its abdomen had been pierced, and there was a sword wound on its neck as well. This was Situ Sen's masterpiece. Meanwhile, the dragon rider was a warrior in his early 20s. He was extremely young, and his chest had been pierced through by the Xingtian army's flame spears, moreover more than 10 flame spears. One could imagine just how bitter the battle was back then. "Are you sure there aren't any other dragon riders?" Lin Muyu asked. "Yes, we're sure there aren't any. Our alert radius is 100 miles. He entered our range a long time ago, but he still came to die without even knowing it." "Very good. Continue to maintain vigilance." Lin Muyu glanced at the dragon rider's corpse and said, "Push it to the bottom of the sea to feed the fishes." Ouyang Yen pursed her red lips and didn't say anything. She just watched a group of armored warriors push the corpses of the dragon riders and dragons off the ship. Boom! Water splashed, and instantly, a group of nightmare people appeared and began fighting over the corpses. Unlike Gong Gong's navy, nightmare people were more like wild beasts. They could eat anything they wanted, and they were unrestrained. Qianfeng didn't even bother to restrain them. As long as they didn't hurt his own people, it would be fine. Only by maintaining their nature could they maintain their fighting power. Ouyang Yen knew that Lin Muyu was known as the most famous general of the empire, and she was also a benevolent general. Logically speaking, she should bury the enemy's corpses as a sign of respect. However, she couldn't do that in the sea. She could only throw the corpses away, or else they would be a burden. This kind of behavior didn't meet the standard of a benevolent general, but it was very much in line with the style of an excellent commander-in-chief. The east gradually turned bright, and the dawn came. However, this was only the first day. Lin Muyu felt a bit tired, yawned, and said to Situ Sen, "From now on, you and Wei Chou will be in charge of today's patrol. I'm going to take a nap. So, have a good rest." Situ Sen carried his long sword and said, "Everyone, continue the patrol with me." "Yes, Deputy Commander." Although Lin Muyu was the commander-in-chief, Situ Sen, Feng Shi, Situ Shui, and a few other deputy commanders truly controlled most of the military power in the Longdan army camp. Therefore, the soldiers respected the deputy commanders as much as they respected Lin Muyu, the commander-in-chief. The flagship warship rose and fell with the waves, swaying left and right, causing many people to vomit. What sounds could be heard in the cabin from time to time. It was really hard for them. Lin Muyu's room was next to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's. When she opened the door, there was a warm quilt and a warm stove. After taking off her cold armor, she crawled into the quilt and fell asleep in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1134. After an unknown period of time, Lin Muyu slowly woke up. She felt something churning in her stomach, and she felt like vomiting. She immediately turned over and got up, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She was actually seasick. Looking outside, it seemed that the sky was gloomy, and night was about to fall. She got up, opened the cabin door, and saw two imperial guards standing respectfully outside. One of them said to Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's cabin, "Your Highness Yin, dinner is ready. 3 portions. Is the marshal awake?" The imperial guard glanced at Lin Muyu and said, "He's awake, and he's looking at me." Qin Yin burst into laughter and flew out of the cabin. She looked at Lin Muyu with her hand on the wooden plank and said with a smile, "Brother Yu, will you accompany me and Xiaoxi for dinner?" Lin Muyu nodded. "I'll wash up first." She took out a toothbrush and toothpaste from her space bag and took some fresh water from a cup. Then she went to the deck and walked to the edge of the ship to brush her teeth. "Greetings, Marshal." A group of officers and soldiers saluted her. Lin Muyu raised her hand and ordered them not to stand on ceremony. Then she continued to brush her teeth. After brushing her teeth, she picked up the snow on the side of the ship and rubbed it on her face. The snow quickly melted and served as the friction to wash her face. It also made her feel refreshed instantly. It was so cold. Wei Chou walked forward and said respectfully, "Madam, today's voyage was very smooth. We traveled nearly 700 miles during the day, much faster than we expected." 700 miles? Lin Muyu could not help but smile. "In that case, we might reach Changyuan Island in 4 days." "Yes. Go and rest. I'll be in charge of patrolling defense at night." "Yes, my lord." Lin Muyu turned around and entered the cabin. There were a total of 4 to 5 rooms at the back of the ship, and all of them were occupied by the upper echelons of the empire. The aroma of the dishes attracted Chu Yao and Si Kongyao. As a result, the 5 of them had a meal together, and it was considered as special treatment. There was also fresh and tender delicacies as well as mellow and fragrant soups. This was considered a privilege of the empress. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu and Chu Yao also followed along to enjoy the blissful life. The Qin Empire didn't lack money, so they didn't have to go to the deck to eat cold bread like soldiers. "How's the military situation?" Qin Yin asked as she scooped soup for Lin Muyu. "Everything went well." Lin Muyu said, "Last night, we killed a dragon rider who tried to spy on the military situation, and we also received a letter from Qian Feng and Su Jiantao. They have already arrived at Greenstone Island and Jiufeng Island to serve as outposts for the 3 armies." Si Kongyao smiled and asked, "I still don't quite understand Brother Yu's intention in sending these 2 fleets ahead of time." Outposts can provide information, and they can also serve as bait. "The more important thing is the bait, right?" Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu nodded. "I really want to fight Chen Yu at sea, and with Chen Yu's intelligence, I can naturally see through it. He won't be happy to fight me at sea, so I have to throw out a huge bait to force him to fight me at sea." "Is Chen Yu really that powerful?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. "His intelligence isn't below yours or mine," Lin Muyu said concisely. "If that's the case..." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, "If that's the case, our chances of winning will become smaller again." "No, we will definitely win." Lin Muyu's eyes were full of deep meaning. The 4 girls asked together. "It's very simple." Lin Muyu's handsome face brimmed with confidence as she said, There is one thing that the celestial pole continent will never be able to match up to us, and that is unity. Xiao Yin, you are the empress, but you didn't order the execution of a national traitor like Qin Yi after capturing him. This kind of bearing and grace will allow us to win the hearts of the people. Think about it, even generals like Zhen Yifan and Xiang Yu, who once had rebellious thoughts, were placed in important positions by us. Who wouldn't be loyal to us? As she spoke, Lin Muyu stirred the vegetable leaves in the soup with her chopsticks and said, although we only have half the number of people in the celestial pole continent, we are united. However, Qin Yu is different. Chen Yu is alone, and people like Yangshang, Filei, Dora, and Baiming Yuan won't be of one mind with Qin Yu, so Qin Yu can only use half of his intelligence. This way, Great Qin will definitely win. Qin Yin smiled sweetly, gratified. Then I can rest assured. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. Brainwashing expert Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu laughed. He loved and hated these two girls at the same time. How annoying. He picked up the bowl and finished the soup in one gulp. He then stood up and said, all right, it's getting dark. I'll be in charge of patrolling the fleet tonight. You guys sleep well, I'm going to carry out my military duties. A grand marshal has to personally patrol the fleet? Chu Yao's mouth fell open. I have no choice. This is a special time, so I can't be careless. He left the girls with his back as he walked out of the cabin with his sword hilt. Night fell, and the deck became even colder. In the sky, a giant dragon was soaring against the wind, and riding on its back was a beautiful girl. It was Situ Shui. It had been so many years, but Situ Shui hadn't aged at all. In fact, she looked even younger than before. My lord, can I accompany you on patrol tonight? Situ Shui asked with a smile. It would be my honor. Lin Muyu stood at the bow of the ship and said, don't you want to take a look in the sky, my lord? Situ Shui asked with a smile. Up in the sky. That's fine. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment before she suddenly opened her palm and pointed outside the ship's railing. Icatosaurus, come out. It's your turn. Don't sleep in every day. Awoo! The wall of the alternate dimension was broken, and the majestic Icatosaurus twisted its body and flew out of the hexagram. Clouds appeared around its body, and it called out to Lin Muyu several times respectfully as a greeting. Lin Muyu jumped onto the dragon's back and grabbed the Icatosaurus's red mane. Let's go. Follow me to patrol the fleet. Icatosaurus understood. It quickly twisted its body and soared into the sky with Lin Muyu. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp on the deck were dumbfounded. A real dragon. It was much stronger than the dragon mounts of Situ Sen and Situ Shui. In the sky, the clouds were dense, and Lin Muyu quickly flew into the clouds. Beside her, other than Situ Shui, there were a few more dragon knights and hundreds of Xingtian heavenly army guards. Ah Shui, how many dragon knights do we have? Lin Muyu asked. Situ Shui blinked and chuckled. My lord, we originally had 41 dragons. Later, Miss Si Kongyao smuggled a few dozen from the celestial pole continent. Now, the Longdan army camp has a total of 114 dragons, which is equivalent to 114 dragon knights. Although we can't compare to the celestial pole continent in terms of numbers, we have formed a powerful force of our own. Very good. Lin Muyu urged Icatosaurus to fly forward. Soon, they saw rows of battleships moving in a triangular formation on the surface of the sea. It was the Imperial Army fleet controlled by Feng Jixing. From afar, they saw a small table on the deck of the flagship of this fleet. Feng Jixing was sitting upright and still, making tea. It was rare for him to be in such a mood. On the side, Zhang Wei, Guanxing, and the others were drinking tea with him. They didn't look like they were facing a great enemy. However, it seemed that this was the style of the Imperial Army, elegant and not flustered. Once the enemy appeared, they would fight more valiantly than anyone else. Lin Muyu continued to fly forward. She went deep into the clouds. She saw bolts of lightning raging in the purple clouds above. My lord, we can't fly up anymore. It's dangerous. Situ Shui said hurriedly. The lightning there is extremely destructive. Be careful. Don't follow us. Lin Muyu said in a deep voice. I want to see what's in these clouds. Situ Shui was speechless. Swoosh! Catasaurus turned into a blood-red light and flew into the clouds with Lin Muyu. The moment they entered the clouds, lightning swept over, just like the lightning that imprisoned the 7 luminaries' demon emperor in the Ba Huang domain. Clang! The Shen Yuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu's sword skills were swift and fierce. She slashed the lightning tentacles several times in a row. However, Icatosaurus didn't seem to be afraid of the lightning at all. It raised its head and let out a deafening dragon roar. It twisted its body and flew toward the place where the purple clouds were denser. Lin Muyu could faintly feel that there seemed to be a very strange power in that place. The electric net in front of them became denser and denser. So much so that Lin Muyu had to constantly slash at it to advance. Looking through the layers of electric net, Lin Muyu's heart suddenly trembled. There seemed to be a purple-black energy core, protected by layers of electric net. It emitted a very dense demonic aura, like a demonic heart. Demonic heart? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and urged Icatosaurus to rush over. However, the piercingly cold electrical net came charging at him. With a loud boom, the powerful energy surged and sent him flying back along with his dragon. No, the energy field of the central domain was too strong. It was not something that Lin Muyu could touch with her current abilities. Ow ow! Catasaurus let out a miserable groan and roared as if it was facing a great enemy. Is this the power of the demonic realm in the mortal world? Lin Muyu thought to herself. She sheathed her sword and no longer tried to hit a stone with an egg. She grabbed Icatosaurus's mane and was about to leave. But at this moment, there was a sudden chi-la sound. A faint golden rune appeared near the energy field of the demonic heart. Then, faint runes appeared. It was a kind of power with righteousness. Although it was very small, it made Lin Muyu feel a strong affinity. Righteousness of heaven and earth, vast and everlasting. The demon emperor had once said that. Although the power of this righteousness was very small, it had already been born at the side of the demonic heart. Since ancient times, righteousness and evil had mutually restrained each other. Where there was a demonic path, there must be a righteous path. This made Lin Muyu a little excited. The power of righteousness seemed to have begun to appear in this plane. This was good news. At this moment, the two forces collided again. Boom! There was an explosion, and the small golden crystal instantly disappeared. It was directly extinguished by the demonic energy. The biting cold air swept Lin Muyu and Icatosaurus out of the clouds. Lord, are you all right? Situ Shui flew over with her people. I'm fine. Lin Muyu waved her hand. She looked up at the thunderous clouds in the sky and said, I'm fine. He was a little disappointed. In the end, righteousness still couldn't defeat evil. Currently, the demonic energy in the Shattered Cauldron realm was far stronger than righteousness. Otherwise, a demon god like Philae wouldn't have been born. The spirit pulse technique spread out. Within a radius of 100 miles, there were dozens of such demonic hearts. They covered the sky of the continent and wreaked havoc everywhere. Chapter 1135. 100 miles south of Shiping City, Nanhu County. Cries and screams could be heard throughout the county. In the Barbican of the county capital, a group of old and young were kneeling on the ground. Their families had already been tied up with ropes and forcibly recruited as recruits of the Shang nation. The allowance given to their families was only a mere 50 copper coins. Are they done? A general holding a saber grabbed the reins of his horse. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, "Kill anyone who dares to obstruct the troops from leaving the city. This is a critical time. Don't hesitate." But Lord Jin Chong, these people are the citizens of the kingdom. A young 10-man squad leader was shocked. Jin Chong was the Chiliarch of the 3rd Legion and one of the main people in charge of recruiting new soldiers. He slowly lowered his saber and said, "Are you questioning my orders?" "I dare not." The 10-man squad leader hurriedly knelt and apologized. "Please don't be angry, Lord. In that case, do as you say. These people are courting death by obstructing the army from leaving the city." Yes, allow me to threaten them. No need, I'll do it myself. Jin Chong urged his horse forward. The king's fighting flames surged on his arm. With a sudden shout, his saber flashed and an old man's head was sent flying with the wind. Blood splattered everywhere. An old man who had come to send his son to join the army had become a dead soul. Those who interfere with military affairs will be killed without mercy. The battle is imminent. Clear the path for me. Jin Chong's face was filled with ruthlessness. Yes, kill. A group of soldiers from the kingdom of Shang mounted their horses and waved their sabers as they started a massacre in the Barbican. In the blink of an eye, the sky was filled with cries and blood. Nearly 100 citizens had become corpses. Thunder rumbled in the sky. An extremely evil power hidden in the dark clouds rolled over and turned into strands of demonic aura that descended from the sky. It hummed and evaporated, devouring the blood on the ground. At the same time, strands of demonic aura circled around Jin Chong. His brow began to light up. The decaying godhead was awakened. Then, the demonic aura turned into a demonic body and seeped into his body. Jin Chong's eyes were filled with violence and excitement. Despite the intense pain his body was in, he was still able to laugh out loud. He knelt on one knee and looked up at the sky. Thank you, God, for bestowing upon me the demonic body. In the sky, the gigantic demonic shadow was ever-changing, sometimes in the shape of a human, sometimes in the shape of a giant bell, and sometimes in the shape of a surging river. The extreme and evil demonic breath was so oppressive that it almost suffocated the crowd. That inhuman voice once again reverberated in the air. Jin Chong, killing is second nature to you and you have attained the diabolism. Today, I bestow upon you a Dharmakaya and confer upon you the title of first-tier lower deity. I hope that you will serve the diabolism well in the future. Yes, thank you, exalted goddess. Jin Chong was still kneeling on the ground. He was a little disappointed. After all, Philae was a mid-god, while the power he obtained was only that of a low god. Moreover, Philae was a titled god, while he was an untitled god. Their statuses couldn't be compared at all. However, Jin Chong was ecstatic at the moment. He was the second god on the continent. Anyone would be wary of him. Beside him, all the soldiers became even more reverent. They smiled and said, "Congratulations, Lord Demon God Jin Chong. It's all for ourselves. Don't stand on ceremony." Jin Chong stood up and said, "Brothers, follow me to see Marshal Chen Yu. We can always ask for a deputy commander. If I can become the deputy commander, all of you will be promoted by 3 ranks. Yes, thank you, Lord. Tianji City. The Demon Realm Oracle had just disappeared when Yangshang could no longer sit still. Damn it, who is Jin Chong? Yangshang punched the armrest of his seat. Beside him, the Northern Heaven Realm's deputy commander Wu Chang said respectfully, "He's a celestial warrior. He used to be a divine king. Now, he has attained the diabolism and become a demon god." Another one. Yangshang's eyes flickered with fierceness. He said, "What does this damned heavens mean? My subordinates have all attained the diabolism, but I'm still immortal. My cultivation has stagnated." Wu Chang smiled. "Marshal, why are you so angry? Attaining the diabolism is the will of the heavens. Moreover, Marshal's fate is determined by the heavens. There will definitely be a stronger Dharmakaya waiting for you." Deputy Commander also knows about the Dharmakaya? Of course. Without a Dharmakaya, it's impossible to become a god just by relying on the godhead. Dharmakaya? Yangshang took a deep breath and said, "Is there any news from the Northern Heaven Realm?" No, Lord Divine King Dong Ming did not receive any oracle. If I'm not mistaken, he should have been punished by the heavens and lost his divine power. Otherwise, he would have contacted us long ago. It's fine. Yangshang clenched his fist and said, "When Divine King Dong Ming regains his divine power, I will have already unified the Celestial Pole Continent and the Shattered Cauldron Realm. At that time, I will offer Lin Muyu's and Qin Yin's heads as a gift to Lord Divine King." Marshal is right. Wu Chang placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and raised his eyebrows. He said, Marshal, I think we should immediately send out an imperial edict to appoint Jin Chong as the commander of the battalion and give him the title of captaincy. Though if Jin Chong will be able to work for Marshal with peace of mind. That's for the best. A bright light flashed in Xianxia's eyes. There are more and more demon gods. I'm afraid I won't be able to continue being a marshal if there are more. All right, is there any news from Chenyu? Chenyu has been well versed in the art of war since he was young. Marshal, don't worry. There won't be any mistakes in handing over the million-strong army to Chenyu. All right. Xianxia's gaze was cold as he said, from tomorrow onwards, I will be entering seclusion to study the heavenly Tao. No one is to disturb me unless it's an important military matter. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. The East Sea was a magnificent sight. The snow had stopped once again. After the winds blew, the waves surged. The warships were bobbing up and down along with the waves. It was worrisome. The soldiers on the deck all crouched down, afraid that they would be struck into the water by a rapidly spinning wave. In such an environment, there was no chance of survival if they were to fall into the water. The waves were too turbulent for humans to handle. Another demon god has appeared. Lin Muyu stood on the deck of the flagship's bow. She stood upright like a mountain. No matter how the warship bobbed up and down, she remained motionless. Cultivators were all training, and stabilizing their footing was just a basic skill. Experts like Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and Sidu Sin had long reached the point of perfection. They would definitely not be as pathetic as ordinary soldiers. Jin Chong, another unknown person. Wei Chou frowned and said, if I'm not wrong, he should be a god of the northern heaven realm. What's going on with the heavens? Why do they keep sending down oracles to appoint demon gods? The righteous path is declining, and the demonic path is flourishing. This is expected. Lin Muyu pointed to the clouds and said, the sky is filled with demonic energy. After the reconstruction of order, the laws are also filled with chaotic energy. The power of the demon world now far exceeds the power of the righteous path. Moreover, killing to become a god is not difficult at all. The appearance of the demon god is also expected. Will the demon world unify our three realms? Sidu Shui asked worriedly. I don't think so. Lin Muyu was also not sure. She said, at least I think so. The heavenly Tao will not allow the demon world to rampage endlessly like this. Those evil people can prove their Tao, so good people can also prove their Tao. It's just that the time is not right. Wei Chou frowned and said, the power of the demon gods is far greater than ours. Once the war starts, these two demon gods are bound to kill our compatriots. I'm afraid, the moment the heavens open their eyes, all of us who have the qualifications to prove our Tao and become gods will be killed. No, definitely not. Gods aren't invincible. Lin Muyu held the hilt of the Xinyuan sword and said, pass down the order. Speed up and reach Changyuan Island as soon as possible. Milord, you want to? Situ Shui blinked her eyes. Finish the war quickly. We can't let the people of the celestial pole continent continue to get the demon bodies. Wei Chou, Sidu Sin, Fengxi, Ouyang Yan, and the others were silent. Anyone could see that Lin Muyu's confidence was shaken. Yes, in this situation, it was normal for her to be shaken. After all, Lin Muyu was a mortal, not a god. Greenstone Island, an island full of green, but the green was not the forest, but the color of the stones on the island. Although it was covered by snow, there were still many green stones that rendered the island full of vitality. In the middle of the island, tents had been set up, and the seaside was full of warships. In the camp, the Longdan Army Camp and Great Qin's purple Yinhua flag fluttered. In the central tent, Su Jiantao was ordering a group of military staff officers to make a sand table of the area around Greenstone Island. In the vicinity of 5 kilometers, there were other islands of different sizes besides Greenstone Island. The big ones were as big as Zetian Palace, and the small ones could be submerged by the waves at any time. Milord, here, and here are all underwater islands, which are the legendary submerged reefs. Our fleet must not pass through here, or it will be destroyed. Okay, I got it. Continue to send small ships to survey. We must completely grasp the surrounding terrain. Yes. The staff officer turned and left. Another person hurriedly walked in. It was a captaincy of the Longdan army camp. He said hurriedly, "Commander, the enemy has appeared." "Oh, speak." "We found a medium-sized warship 5 kilometers away. It appeared with the flag of the Kingdom of Shang. It should be the warship responsible for scouting in the celestial pole continent. Do we need to send large ships to destroy it with magic crystal cannons?" "There's no need." Su Jiantao waved his hand lightly and said, "There's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Just send 2 ships out. Use the agility of the ships to avoid the enemy's firepower. Use the magic crystal crossbows to shoot the sides of the ships. After sinking the enemy, don't leave any survivors. Kill all the enemies in the sea." "We don't want any captives?" "No. We're running low on rations. We can only last for 10 days at most. We don't have any food to feed the captives. Go and execute it. Continue to be on high alert." "Yes, I understand." Chapter 1136. 3 days later, the fleet led by Lin Muyu arrived at Changyuan Island. This crescent-shaped island was simply a uniquely endowed harbor. The small boats were in front, and after scouting out the situation on the reefs, the warships docked one after another. Most of the ships anchored in the shallow waters and clustered around this safe haven of Changyuan Island. An army of 300,000 was no small number. In the blink of an eye, Changyuan Island was almost completely covered. Under Lin Muyu's orders, the soldiers found a mountain of potato chips in the cave. The spiritual flame division of the various battalions began to cook in the afternoon so that the soldiers could eat a good meal and recover their strength. By nightfall, over 100 cargo ships were transporting food from Changyuan Island to the garrisons of Greenstone Island and Eternal Wind Island. Unknowingly, the 3 great armies had already formed a triangular formation that was directly facing the celestial pole continent. The next morning, 2 more dragon riders appeared in the sky, but under the pursuit of Lin Muyu and the Xingtian army, not a single one was able to escape. They were all buried in the sea. When it was close to noon, a fishing boat from the celestial pole continent entered Changyuan Island's waters and was similarly seized. For 3 days in a row, the number of dragon riders that had died under the ambush of Changyuan Island had already reached 9. Lin Muyu began to feel uneasy, and even Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Xiang Yu, and the others were becoming a bit impatient. The repeated probing of the enemy had already made them lose their patience. During the afternoon military conference, every commander was given a cup of coffee, and it was personally brewed by Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. It was quite good to use as a refresher. Feng Jixing blew at the foam on the coffee and took a small sip. He put down the coffee and said, "What exactly is Qin Yu thinking? He sends dragon riders to their deaths time and time again. Could he have sensed something? Perhaps." Lin Muyu's gaze rested on the western coast on the map. "According to the military intelligence we've obtained, the ports of Xishan province seem to have all been sealed. Chen Yu has strictly forbidden any warships from heading out to fight. It seems like his sense of smell isn't bad." Xiang Yu frowned and said, "Then we can't keep waiting like this. We're wasting a large amount of rations and charcoal here. It's definitely not a long-term solution." Tang Zhen frowned and said, "Lin General, we should strike first and gain the initiative. We can't strike later and be restrained by others." Lin Muyu nodded. "Order Su Jiantao and Qianfeng to send a small fleet of fast ships to cause trouble. Bombard Qin Yu's port from afar and test his reaction." "What if he doesn't respond? What should we do?" Feng Jixing asked. Zhang Wei grinned. "Then let's go ashore and kill them all." "No, we can't go ashore. That'll be exactly what Qin Yu wants." Lin Muyu shook her head. "No matter what the situation is, we can't go ashore before we've dealt a heavy blow to Qin Yu's main force. This is my highest military order. Whoever dares to disobey it will be beheaded." Zhang Wei grinned, while Lin Sun, Luo Yu, and the other Imperial Army generals held back their laughter. Old Zhang was honest and straightforward, but she was also the one the marshal rebuked the most. Celestial Pole Continent, Shiping Prefecture. It was a major conference that was held once every 3 days. The huge military conference table was filled with people. Almost all the main generals of the million-strong army were present. Even the 2 great demonic gods, Philae and Jin Chong, were present. Chen Yu was wearing the marshal's cape, looking like a young man who had achieved success. He looked at the crowd indifferently but remained silent, not saying a word. "Marshal." A commander stood up and cupped his hands. "Many of the Dragon Rider scouts we've sent out have not returned, and many of the light boat scouts have also been attacked. The Qin army's fleet is less than 200 miles away from us. As long as Marshal gives the order, our million-strong army will be able to overturn the mountains and overturn the seas, destroying Lin Muyu's army in one fell swoop, consigning him to eternal damnation." "That's right, Marshal. What are we waiting for?" Another commander echoed loudly. Qin Yu didn't answer. Instead, he glanced at Philae and Jin Chong and asked, "What do the 2 great demonic gods think?" Jin Chong was only a commander of a battalion, so he didn't have the right to be present. However, his status was special. He stood up with a smile and said, "They're just a bunch of mortals. What's so hard about defeating them?" "Lord Philae, I believe that's what you're thinking, right?" Philae smiled faintly. "According to the military intelligence we have, the Qin army's warships are limited, and the number of troops they can carry is also limited. In addition, they're on a long journey. They're really looking for death. As long as we attack with all our strength, they're bound to be routed and perish in this vast sea." "But I don't think so." Chen Yu smiled. Philae frowned and said impatiently, "What do you mean, Marshal?" "My lords, please listen to my explanation." Chen Yu put his hand on the table and said, "In the past few days, we've sent a total of 51 dragon riders out to sea to patrol. So far, we've found that the Qin fleet has appeared on Greenstone Island and Eternal Wind Island. However, the 9 dragon riders sent to patrol Changyuan Island have all died. They didn't even bring back any news. Can't you smell it?" "What smell?" Philae asked. "It's very simple. There's something wrong with Changyuan Island." Qin Yu smiled faintly. "The more they don't want us to know about the situation on Changyuan Island, the more it shows that there's something fishy going on there. If we rashly send troops, we'll really fall into Lin Muyu's trap. This man has always been scheming. His seemingly calm appearance often hides infinite murderous intent. At least, this is what I know about him." "Is that so?" Philae sneered. "Then what's Marshal Chen Yu's plan to deal with the enemy?" "Defend." Chen Yu said, "The 2 sides are far apart, and it will be very time-consuming and laborious to transport supplies. As long as we defend, the Qin army will collapse without attacking. Only by forcing them to land can the Northern Heaven Realms God Race army attack the battle formation and show their power. What do you think, my lords?" "So Marshal's brilliant plan is just to be a coward?" Philae suddenly laughed. Many generals who were not convinced by Qin Yu also laughed. The kingdom of Shang was a reorganized empire. Naturally, most of the generals of the Blackstone Empire and the Tianji Empire would not be convinced by Qin Yu. They naturally fell to Philae's side and followed Philae's lead. In any case, they would not let Qin Yu have an easy time. Qin Yu's face turned white and red. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Emperor Shang conferred me the title of Marshal. I will put the interests of the empire first in everything I do. My lords have received the imperial edict of Emperor Shang to assist me. I hope that we can let go of the past and work together to defeat the strong enemy." "So, Marshal is going to be a coward to the end?" Philae's eyes were full of ridicule. "I'm not a coward, I'm just defending." "Whatever." Philae stood up, brushed the dust off his sleeves and said, "Since Marshal is determined to defend, I will go hunting in the forest south of the city. I hope that the day the Qin army comes ashore, Marshal will not be scared out of his wits and still defend." "Farewell." Philae directly left the conference hall. Jin Chong also stood up, cupped his hands and smiled, "Farewell." In the blink of an eye, more than half of the generals in the conference hall had left, leaving only a dozen or so people sitting there in silence. Sigh. Qin Yu slumped on the marshal's seat. His face was full of exhaustion. He said, "Mobilize all the magic crystal cannons in the empire. Move them all into Shiping City. Prepare for war." "Marshal, most of the magic crystal cannons are on the warships. Dismantle them." "Yes." Another 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On November 17, 7743 of the Empire calendar, Su Jiantao personally led 20 warships to bombard Shiping Port and burned more than 40 warships of the Kingdom of Shang. On November 18, 7743 of the Empire calendar, Qian Feng led his troops to bombard Songdong Port and sank more than 70 warships and merchant ships. But what was strange was that Qin Yu never made any response, as if he had fallen asleep. This made Lin Muyu sleepless all night, and his eyes almost turned red. No matter how the Qin Empire provoked him, the keen Qin Yu did not seem to fall for it at all. On the morning of the 19th, Lin Muyu just drank a bowl of soup and immediately went to the marshal's tent to deal with military affairs. The troops of the 3 major islands added up to a total of 450,000. Almost all the affairs, big and small, had to go through the hands of the marshal. There was a wisp of warmth in the stove. Lin Muyu knelt on the meadow and flipped through the register like a towering mountain. Beside her, Wei Chou opened the book one by one and read it unhurriedly. According to the accurate news, nearly 300,000 troops of Shiping Prefecture have entered Shiping Port. These 300,000 troops are under the command of Filei. It seems that the contradiction between Filei and Qin Yu has deepened again. 3 days ago, 100,000 tons of coal entered Shiping Prefecture. 2 days ago, Lao Han City transported 200,000 sets of armor into Shiping City. Yesterday morning, Filei married 3 concubines. It is said that they are the 3 daughters of Wang Fu, a gentleman of Shiping City. Filei is very fond of these 3 women. Late last night, Filei and Jin Chong brought people to make trouble in Shiping Prefecture again. They are very dissatisfied with Qin Yu. It is reported that Qin Yu seems to intend to reduce the military power held by Filei. The sewer in the eastern district of Shiping City is blocked and stinks. At the side, Si Kong Yao giggled. "Wei Chou, why do you have to report everything to Brother Yu? If this is the case, how can he manage so many things?" Wei Chou was a little embarrassed. These are all information from the people we have planted in the celestial pole continent. They don't know what is useful and what is not, so they can only report everything. Lin Muyu, who was reviewing military affairs, suddenly had a thought. She raised her head and said, "Wei Chou, read the last one again." Filei and Jin Chong brought people to make trouble in Shiping Prefecture again. They are very dissatisfied with Qin Yu. No, the previous one. Yesterday morning, Filei married 3 concubines. It is said that they are the 3 daughters of Wang Fu, a gentleman of Shiping City. Filei is very fond of these 3 women. Yes, that's the one. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Was there a piece of military intelligence given to me yesterday where Qin Yu issued a military order, strictly forbidding all generals from bringing their families along?" "Yes, there was such a piece." Lin Muyu's heart suddenly lit up, and she said, "I've finally grasped this rare opportunity." "My lord, what do you mean?" Wei Chou was confused. Lin Muyu said, "Yao, secretly order the people you left in Shiping City to change into the military uniforms of the Kingdom of Shang and disguise themselves as Qin Yu's subordinates. While Filei is away, go to Filei's residence and capture his 3 concubines under the pretext that the marshal's bodyguards are enforcing the law. Take the 3 concubines out of Xishan province and hide them, intensifying the conflict between Filei and Qin Yu. In addition, spread rumors among Qin Yu's army that Qin Yu has already written to Emperor Shang, asking Emperor Shang to strip Filei of his military authority. Si Kong Yao gladly said, "Yao obeys." Wei Chou also came to a sudden realization. He laughed loudly and said, "This sowing discord is really vicious. My lord, this subordinate is very impressed." You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.